coming to get you, Barbara.
I ain't one to make a fuss about a thing like that.
Make your wishes.
They're coming for you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Deep Cuts of Horror, where we analyze the overlooked and underappreciated films in the annals of horror cinema. And we decide if we think they're deep, or if they need to be cut ultimately. Guys, I'm so excited about this episode. Right now it's summer, the leaves are green, the sun is hot, the days are longer, and this week we're going to camp. We said a little bit last week that if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. I still fully expect that of you. If you haven't seen it, go in as blind as possible and watch this movie we're going to be talking about today. It is just a marvel in itself. And while we're waiting on that, I am going to introduce our next guest, a guest who, in planning this whole episode, I knew I wanted this person on the show to discuss this because they were the only person that I knew who would be able to properly discuss something as alternative and indeed camp. So he is the perfect individual to take us all to camp and experience this and go on this journey with us. Everybody say hi to Tyler.
Well, hello everyone. Yes, I'm definitely super excited to talk about this with Dylan here.
Oh my gosh, let's just get into a little about you. How have you been?
Oh, I've been all right. Yeah, super busy. Just kind of doing it up here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Woo woo.
I know, yeah.
How are things in Nash Vegas?
Oh, they're okay, I guess, you know. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and no, just I've been kind of working away, and but what I love to do for fun, just kind of chill out with a great campy older horror film with just some of the best acting you've ever seen.
Some of the best, really Oscar-worthy. Moonlight who?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The thing is with the acting in this movie, if one person was good at acting, it would all fall apart. But the thing is, every actor here is making so many choices
Yeah.
that it just adds to the fun of what you're experiencing. Because no one seems to know exactly what they're doing in terms of acting, but they're still giving a performance and making choices.
And it all works. It all somehow just melds together and it just works. I mean, that's why this came out over almost 40 years ago, and it is a big cult favorite.
It's kind of like if we were talking about Jessica Lange just a second ago. If Jessica Lange were in a community theater production of To Kill a Mockingbird, it probably wouldn't work, but if you just see a community theater production of To Kill a Mockingbird, you'll enjoy it. Because none of these people are really trained actors, except for, I think, James Earl Jones's father.
Yes, and even then.
Even then. Yeah, James Earl Jones was born. His acting talent left him, I think, about 7 years ago when he put it in James Earl Jones' mother. Hot take?
Oh, Lord.
All right,
Probably.
so...
No, but he's
he's
adorable,
precious.
though.
He's precious.
I mean,
The character is kind of suspect, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I just think to work in a business like that in the early 80s, what a joy. I was watching a documentary on HBO Max called Class Action Park, and it seemed a lot like this summer camp. You had a owner who cared more about money than the safety of its patrons. And so you had a water slide that did a 360-degree invert.
Oh, God.
Yeah, centrifugal force, that doesn't work. So what people would do once they round the curve at the top like a roller coaster goes around, they would just pretty much bump and slide around. And people were coming out of it getting lacerations, and they thought, well, why are these people getting lacerated? There were teeth. There were teeth stuck in the rubber coating that they had to fish out. And there's so many more stories. If you haven't seen that documentary, it's definitely worth a watch, but really reminds me of Mel. It reminds me of Mel so much.
I have notes. I have a note on that from when I rewatched it last night, and I was just trying to take notes. I mean, I was like, what the hell, Mel? I mean, really, these kids keep dying, spoiler alert, and he just doesn't care. And it's like, ruined, I'm finished. and we'll definitely get into his performance in a certain scene that's a little bit later.
But when he talks to the police, then he's just leading them into the conclusion. So you're saying it could be an accident, right? I'm no expert in these things. Yeah, it's clearly an accident. And the cop's like, sure.
And I remember that boy being a pretty damn good swimmer. It is ridiculous. I mean, lawsuit. It's like sued. You are so sued.
Besides that,
that's part of the fun.
I know. Who is it? Ronnie? Ronnie the
shorty shorts. Yeah, he leaves nothing to the imagination.
I was gonna say with Ronnie, I don't really hear his lines, and I had to rewatch it and focus on what he was saying. Because every time he's on screen, I'm just looking at muscles, I'm looking at shorts, I'm looking at the shirt, I'm looking at the hair.
Especially I think the second time we see him is when they're in the dining hall. And of course, Meg gets him because Angela won't eat. And then it's those red shorts. And especially on Blu-ray, those shorts, it's something about those red shorts in the rec hall. I'm always like, okay. I mean, that's the one that leaves nothing to the imagination. It's almost as bad. You know, I was going to try to fit Grease 2 into here somewhere, but like that shot where that guy's running and then he kind of falls out, you know, so the twins are talking to Michael. That's all I see every time now because it's on Blu-ray, it's in high def, and then it gets bigger and bigger every time. So
I have the Blu-ray as well, and when I was watching it in the media room, and we have a projector, so it was about
giant,
100 inches. It was giant. It was as big as my head. Great.
That sounds like a great
times
evening.
To be had.
Yeah, wonderful. What a time to be alive.
Oh yeah, I want to do a billionaire recluse style viewing of the movie where I'm just in a dark room by myself. Just let them know I'm going to be in my study. Are you going to be watching Sleepaway Camp again? Yes. Howard Hughes
always.
style.
And I have to be honest, for the listeners too, and you know this, that I only really got to this, it was about a year ago. I think I was looking through the Facebook post I made last night. I think it was around August or so. And because I got in the Blu-ray and just hadn't watched it. And I know you tried to get me to watch this for ages.
Yes.
And and then another person, that was my first note. I just really wanted to make sure I was doing a little sort of dedication to he was a longtime online friend of mine, Steve Warwick. He unfortunately passed away last year very suddenly, and it was very shocking. He absolutely loved this. Yeah, he absolutely loved this movie. He basically was good friends with Felissa Rose.
Oh, I love her. She seems like such a sweet person.
And she knew him. She had commented, she was really upset that Steve, because he had gone to these conventions and he would meet her. So that was just to kind of, I don't want to bum everybody out, but I wanted to have a little dedication to my buddy Steve Warwick, who he also helped me finally see this movie. And if you see, I've got pictures I can show you where he had a Judy costume that was amazing. So he was a treat. He was always a treat.
But that's one of the great things about movies like this. It brings people together.
Absolutely.
In a way, because it's almost a bonding experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something a lot of big budget movies kind of miss. They're the experience in themselves. It's not the experience of experiencing the movie with the people you're with.
Yeah, that's what I think we've lost a lot too, I would say, in the movies that come out now. They're not as daring. They're not, there is, and maybe it's the thing where independent filmmakers, they probably don't have the money that they were able to, they still weren't able to get a lot of money, but I think there were more opportunities available to filmmakers even maybe 20 years ago or so. That's why, John Waters hasn't done a movie since 2004, because it just kind of sort of petered out. And I know streaming probably had something to do with that.
What was the 2004 one? Was that Serial Mom?
No, that was 1994. The last movie John Waters ever directed was Dirty Shame. That's kind of divides people in the John Waters camp. I love it. It's nasty, but it is so, of course.
You're a John Waters apologist.
Oh, yeah. I do. No, Dirty Shame, but Dirty Shame's so joyful about, everyone's sort of different sexual, kinks or whatever. And it's so silly. And it's not, to me, very explicit. The other thing he did, which, I think it was more of a short film that was a couple years ago that was in his, the art show was Kitty Flamingos, where he had a table read with a bunch of kids reading the Pink Flamingo script, which was modified.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, oh my gosh.
Oh God, no. But it's funny because they had wigs in it, because I've only seen the trailer.
Mhm.
And then I'm very excited because Criterion announced finally, I think near the end of June, Pink Flamingos, that filth is coming to Blu-ray, and I've got that shit pre-ordered, and I cannot wait. But they didn't list kitty flamingos on the features, but they said and more. So I mean, I just want to see it. I mean, there's a little girl, and she had that red, and I mean red wig and the cat eye glasses as Connie Marble. And I mean, it's kind of adorable if you're a weirdo like me.
Don't you just love the and more section of the bonus features trying to reel you
I
in?
know, because honestly, that might be it. What they listed is probably it, but I have hope.
There's so many times I want to update
Yeah,
films in my collection, but the special bonus feature or the special additional
yeah,
footage that I want hasn't been explicitly mentioned.
yeah. If it's not, I'm not gonna double dip.
Yeah, no, I'm not double dipping. I do have, unfortunately, some double dips in my collection, so I have been burned by that before.
It depends. I mean, yeah, if it's
I mean, I'm kind of already mad that they make us buy a Blu-ray and a DVD for everything.
yeah, and then that's the thing. And I've slowly been I have been getting into the 4K camp. So, but that's like it's my birthday recently, and then I got Silence of the Lambs 4K. But it's just I've had the Criterion Blu-ray, and I can't get rid of that. So I've got that.
No, you pay
And but
good
there's
money
certain
for that Criterion
oh, I did.
collection stuff.
Even if it was a sale, one of their sales. But and that's the other thing too. And I'm looking over at my movie shelf right now. When that Pink Flamingos Blu-ray comes out, that will be the fourth copy I own of it because I'm seeing the original 1982 VHS copy, the 1997 VHS copy that is signed by John Waters, and then the DVD. And then when I can't get rid of those because those.
All right.
I ruined a lot of people's lives with that film in college, so it's important.
That's how I was with the musical episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So
I'm
yeah,
sorry
it's
to
kind of
I'm
the
sorry
same
to
thing.
everyone. Anyone listening who I made endure the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical episode from season 6. I'm so sorry, but
Oh, it could have been worse. It could have been me showing them Pink Flamingos. So there you go. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
when someone's just not enjoying something but you still make them sit through it.
Oh, I've had that with Sallow, the 120 Days of Sodom, but that's a rough. That's another one that's I think should qualify as a horror film for you, or that's an endurance test for sure.
Oh yes,
Let's
I'm always down to clown for just trash, low budget cinema. Really early too. I like the '60s when they're just using the low millimeter.
Oh,
It's
I
just
love it. Yeah.
chef's kiss, chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
See, here was something
Absolutely.
else I wanted to. One movie I was really excited about was The Devils. It's on Shudder right now. I never wanted to buy it because I knew it was divisive, and I didn't know if I'd like it. And all I can find is Criterion Blues of it, and I didn't want to pay Criterion money for The Devils.
No, here's the thing. It's not on Criterion. That
It's
is the
not.
number one requested. Yeah, and if we're gonna bring up the Devils, I got to talk about this for a
I
minute.
mean, I saw the sequel, Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Oh, don't even get me started on that bullshit. That you saw my post about that. I mean, okay, let me talk about that. This is going to be like a 3-hour episode
It's
unless
okay.
you do some
It's
heavy
okay.
editing.
It's okay.
But seriously, the fact that they stuck Sister Jean, and that is totally her with that costume in a children's movie, and Warner Brothers, and last year was the 50th anniversary. We still can't get. Oh, you put the explicit mark, but we can't get the fucking movie. So, and also don't watch it on Shudder because I remember when it came, it was on Shudder a year or two ago. I think I got the free trial just to see. It is the heavily butchered U.S. cut, and it's horrible.
109
I mean,
minutes?
they listed as that, but no, because it cuts out the most or integral whatever parts of the film. To me, the one that we all want, the hardcore fans of the Devils, is Ken Russell did put together a director's cut before he died. I think it was screened maybe 3 or 4 times across Los Angeles and London. You might have to fact check me on that. But that's not kind of the point. The point of it is it's there, and he died. I think 2011 or 2012. They even recorded a commentary track for that version. So BFI did release it. They were allowed by Warner Brothers to release it on a Region 2 DVD, double DVD, which I don't have because I can't play it. But that's the UK cut. So that's the most complete, officially released version. Does not feature the most notorious sequence, which even I find hard to kind of sit through. But somebody had upconverted it to 1080p HD, and then I did this years ago. I made my own little sort of high def version where I put I'm trying to think of a different way to name it, because the sequence, it's commonly known as the rape of Christ, but I don't really like that for a couple of reasons. And it's hard to watch. It's so disturbing, whatever your religious beliefs might be, or lack thereof. But it's very upsetting to me, because it's just censorship that has lasted for over 50 years, and it is a true story, and it's not some, and it's really, and the fact that still or we can't see it, but The Exorcist is still out there. That to me has more, like, I'm kind of quoting a priest that's in the special feature that they were talking to, but like he said, that's more of a rape of Christ in that certain scene, I'm talking about. But also, I just think the censorship issue with it anyway is ridiculous. I mean, it's over 50 years old now. I don't think people who would be offended, I mean, they won't even know about it. But also, it is a true story, and it's not so much a religious movie as it is a political movie about this man who's wrongly accused, and ridiculously so, of just because he's the Protestant priest and the Catholic Church. But anyway, I'll send you my cut of The Devils. That's the most complete.
Okay, that's the thing. I always want to see the most full version of something. To this day, I feel like I see a new version of The Exorcist every time I see it.
I know, yeah. And I kind of vacillate between, I prefer, honestly, with The Exorcist, which that is one of my favorite movies of all time as well, so don't get me wrong. But I do tend to prefer the original theatrical cut of The Exorcist, but I was actually thinking about that the other day. I do prefer... There's some sequences in the director's cut that I probably would put back in. And honestly, I would maybe put all of them back in, but just, again, take out those CGI Pazuzu faces, because that just doesn't look right for a 1973 film.
No,
I'm just talking about when she's in the kitchen.
Yeah, they tried to George Lucas that shit.
And I ain't having it. No.
At least we didn't get CGI Tatooine.
Oh, God. I know. I remember, and I was never into Star Wars, and I remember I watched it for the first time with my partner at the time. I think it was maybe around 2014 or 2015, because I'd bought him the Blu-ray set. So that was the first time I was watching the first A New Hope all the way through. And even then, I said, what the fuck is this? I'm like, these creatures that are walking around. I'm like, this is 1977. He's like, yeah. And then I went out of my way to get bootlegged fan HD restorations, Blu-rays of the original trilogy.
Oh, you don't even have to do that. I think it was 2007. They came out with special edition DVDs.
That's DVD quality, non-anamorphic, and you got.
Yeah, but you're talking about a movie released in 1977, so that grit kind of helps. So they released it as a two-parter, one with. I think George Lucas did about 5 or 6 edits. This was the earliest edit that he ever did, and then the other disc was the unedited one, so you could enjoy the movie as it was.
Yeah.
I wish they'd do it with E.T.
I think they just need a... Oh, yeah, and I think with the original trilogy with Star Wars, they definitely need to just release the original versions in a proper HD restoration. Everybody wants it. You see, and that's, of course, with Star Wars being as big as it is, and I'm not really a fan, but I do enjoy the original trilogy because they're great movies and definitely groundbreaking for the time, at least as far as visual effects go. So the fact that that can't be appreciated officially, legally in their original, that's another kind of infuriating thing. But
and as far as Star Wars go, I like it more in theory than in practice. I appreciate parts, but not the whole.
I think I'm there with you too. I mean, it's just, and I mean, it's great for the people that are fans, and especially all the shows that are out now and the continuation. But I think that's my thing with my attention span. It's hard to kind of like, it's hard for me to get. I don't have
the attention to watch 12 movies, 4 TV shows, 6 animated TV shows, a holiday special, 5 Lego spin-offs, play the video game.
See, that's the thing. And I'm not that into it.
50 compendium novels, and that's not even including the side stories they release. There's hundreds upon hundreds of those.
I know.
I've always been more of a Star Trek person, TBH.
Yeah. And I've never really, but I mean, I think my thing...
Because Picard's sexy.
Well, if you're into that, sure, yeah.
It's Patrick Stewart, and he's a captain. That power, that voice, it's sexy.
Well, that's right, the voice, yeah. So but I think that's with me, especially as a child, with my attention span. You know, I'm more into Sleepaway Camp, something that's really kind of short and very like kind of will pack a punch, and definitely with that ending, which I guess you should give. You should probably do like a big spoiler warning, right, about people listening
Yes.
to this.
Yes. So if again you're still here and you haven't seen it, just go fucking watch it. We'll still be here. You've downloaded it, you've subscribed, you've liked it, you've commented it. It's still gonna be here no matter what.
Do not
But
listen yet.
yeah, do not listen yet. Okay, have you paused? Okay, it's just us here in the room, the cool kids. Okay.
Yeah. Because I don't want that to be ruined, yeah, for anybody.
No, especially since Robot Chicken did it.
I know, which luckily I forgot about. I had forgotten. So I was still shocked when I saw it for the first time.
You really can't talk about this movie without talking about the fact that Angela is a man?
Yeah.
Question mark? Yeah, I mean, I know it gets into some tricky territory with pronouns and everything with the story, but for the sake of continuity, we'll just be referring to Angela as she through the film, since the big reveal is that she is forcibly transed. Yeah?
Yeah, so I've got
That's really the only way to put it. Something along those lines. They don't really make the parameters around her situation clear, but that's definitely the case.
Yeah, it's definitely a Hedwig situation, where was not that the person's choice or discovery.
Their choice, it was forced upon them.
That's why I get a little hesitant getting into, because obviously I'm not part of that community, and I don't want to overstep, but I think that's what makes this, in my opinion, it makes it okay to kind of talk about it that way, because that was not Angela's decision. That was Aunt Martha forced, just because Aunt Martha wanted a little girl. So that's what makes it even more fucked up, and especially when it just happens at the end.
But what makes it, I guess, work is that the whole story isn't hanging on that resolution. It's more of just a needless stinger, just like everything else in this movie. It's very needless, but I'm glad to have it.
But how else would the movie end? I mean, I can't imagine any other way for that film to end, because I remember watching it for the first time last year thinking, I was like, so I've seen all these films, nothing's going to surprise me, and I was like, we get it, Angela's the killer, blah 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 blah.
But ... she has a dick.
And in that face, and in the fact that it just ends, and then, oh God, that horrible, sound she's making. And then it freezes, and the green, and I was just sitting there.
Turns to like a negative.
I know, and that face will haunt me forever, but I love it. It's just like that one that, it's not even a second, and the director's cut of The Exorcist, you see Pazuzu. When I first watched that when I think I was about 18, because I was in college, and I did have the director's version, I couldn't sleep, or I had trouble sleeping for a while, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Eileen Dietz's just that white face and those teeth. Ugh.
I think we've talked...
See, I'm getting chills already, yeah.
I think we've talked about this a little on the pod before, but my big thing with horror is imagery. If you can get imagery that really sticks with me, that's probably going to be what's most effective. And it doesn't have to be a whole sequence, but just her with the knife, naked, holding what's-his-ass's head, Paul's head.
Paul, yeah, Chris Calais. And that's... and especially, I love that quick shot too, when his head just falls, and then he's still got they did it with like a smile on his face. It's just, and that kid is amazing. I'm sure, we'll get into that, but that's what I was, and I think he had maybe had a little bit more professional acting experience already than some of the other kids.
Him and Ricky definitely were better actors. Of course, Ricky, all he had to do was just yell obscenities, which...
That kid, Jonathan Tiersten.
I mean, at my job, I'm real good at yelling obscenities, but it's not encouraged.
I know. If I could get away with that in what I do, but at the bank, they probably wouldn't be appreciative of that. But when he was telling them off on the roof when they're throwing the water balloons, I'm like, oh, God, I wish I could do that to people, I'll beat your fucking asses all over this goddamn part. It was so great.
Just so fun. Yeah. But just real quick, just a little bit more about you. What kind of made you explore horror? Like, what was your... I guess, for lack of a better word, genesis on horror? Like, what intrigued you in the genre?
It's really interesting because growing up, when I was, like, really little, I mean, I would have nothing to do with these sorts of movies. And it seemed like, it was very apparent that I loved film from the get-go. Mm-hmm. And I just loved that experience. But I was a sensitive child. I really was, though, because it would... these movies would affect me so much. So I couldn't really deal with horror, and for the longest time I would stay away. I'm
Mm.
trying to think of, and probably what my favorite would be, even though I don't really consider this horror. I do think of it more of it as a Greek tragedy. But Carrie, I think, is really what got me when I finally watched the original when I was about 14 or 15. And I
14 or
guess
15, what a good age for Carrie.
it really was. And to be a little gay boy in Tennessee,
There's so much subtext.
it was and there's a reason too that the
Hmm.
former little gay boys really identify with Carrie, and I never really got it until kind of more recent years when I watched. I'm like, no wonder we identified with her. I mean, this
Hmm.
outsider and just wanting to try to feel normal, and but I think that's what it was with Carrie, and then that one too was a little easier because, to be honest, it's not that scary. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
little, but
Really, it doesn't get scary
yeah,
till the end.
yeah, and even
I tell
yeah.
all my non-horror friends who don't like those sorts of movies, go ahead and watch Carrie. I know you see her covered in blood. You're thinking it's going to be this big thing, but that's about 10 minutes at the end of the movie. The rest of it's honestly pretty much a sad teen drama.
It really is, and that's what I say. And it's with a total Greek tragedy. I mean, and with the
Mm.
mother. I mean, but that's the other thing. Piper Laurie is just amazing, and then of
Serving
course, Sissy
cunt.
Spacek. I'm not. You said it, but no, I mean, yeah, and I mean, I knew Piper Laurie first from as Annie M in Return to
Mhm.
Oz. Maybe Return to Oz was maybe a bit more of my interest in horror. I think maybe also a little early on. I had to turn it off. I mean, I was 7 years old, obsessed
Mhm.
with Wizard of Oz like you were, and
Mhm.
my aunt in Kansas City finally found a VHS copy, and it was my 7th birthday, and my parents had already started the divorce, so I was at Dad's house,
Mhm.
and we watched it, and I was into it. Then she gets to Mombi, and the first scene with
Oh.
her taking off that head, I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Well, that's kind of cool." And then Dorothy creeps in, and I mean the heads that are asleep, and then Jean Marsh with that Dorothy girl, and then the headless body. I mean, that's terrifying. And I remember I turned it off and I was in tears, and it took me forever. And then I finally would watch it again, and then it gets scary too at the end with the Gnome King
Mhm.
and those demons, kind of rock demons or whatever. But then I would go back, especially when we got DVD, and I just watched the head scene over and over again because it scared the shit out of me. And so I guess that was maybe more so the genesis. Then we got to Carrie, and then something happened too. I think when I mean, I was a late bloomer, I guess, with horror, but it was really in college. I finally got the cojones to get The
Mhm.
Exorcist because I knew that was like the scariest movie ever made. They
Mhm.
said, and I had my little dorm room all to myself because my who was supposed to be my roommate, this kid went back to Texas and never told anybody. So I was watching The Exorcist, in the dark by myself, which was perfect. And that one really bothered me, but I got kind of interested, and then I got into the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then I would get kind of bolder with shocking movies. Which then the next year, my roommate at the time hated me for this, but we're still friends. Poor little Bobby, my little straight Italian roommate. I mean, he hated Pink Flamingos when we watched that. That's not horror, but it is shocking, and especially when you've been kind of. I liken
Mhm.
the experience because I was kind of sheltered that way. So the chicken scene came on, which I knew about, and I didn't think it would be that bad. And then I'm screaming, sitting there because we had the way his bunk bed
Mhm.
was, and we had the little TV there. And then I'm screaming, he's screaming, we turn it off, and then he goes to his evening class, and I said, that's got to be the worst part. Okay, all right, let's get through it. And it was on a VHS, so it stopped exactly there. Turn it on again. Okay, it's funny. There's the Eggman. Okay, Connie and Raymond are kidnapping a girl. Oh my God, Channing is injecting. This is going to get into an NC-17 podcast. But that, and then I finally, like the next year, got into Sallow, the 120 Days of Sodom. I think that's a horror film. I definitely
Mhm.
consider that. I never thought I'd be able to watch that. But even then, there's still movies I've read about that I think I never will watch that. Lars Van Trier's Antichrist comes to mind with that. I
Still
have
haven't
resi-
watched it.
from what I've read about it, and I love Willem Dafoe, but I cannot watch that. I was actually look.
Willem Dafoe scares me.
Oh yeah, I mean he's great as I love him as Jesus in the Last Temptation of Christ. He's a creepy Jesus, but it works. I mean the way he
See, I
does it.
couldn't get through Last Temptation.
Oh, I love that movie.
I'm a greatest story ever told kind of girl.
I mean, visually that one's interesting. I only watched that for the first time about 2 years ago when lockdown started.
Bible's kind of a big gateway for a lot of people who like horror.
And because it would be able to be shown, I mean, I remember it was a year or two after it came out, Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ, and then you would watch. I was flipping around one night, and then on TBN they're showing it unedited, and of course they were able to get away with
And
that
they
because it's
can, yeah.
Jesus. And I was like, but that one was shocking. I still don't. I mean, I don't own that. I'm a big Jesus film aficionado too myself, and I mean that completely seriously. So
I
Easter's
love a
coming.
good sandal
Yeah.
picture. Love a good
Yeah.
sandal film.
And I love my musical Jesuses, like so Jesus Christ Superstar Godspell. So yeah, Easter's coming, so my Easter Film Fest will start again soon. Where I only watch Last Temptation once a year because it's so long, but that's my favorite. So, but yeah, you got to really stick with it.
It's the two VHS. It's the two
Yeah, I
VHS
wouldn't know
pack.
because you couldn't find it for the longest time. So, so I remember we're getting so far away from Sleepaway Camp, but it's just
It's
I love talking
fine.
about
It's
movies.
fine.
You
Really,
were really
really,
gonna have to
what?
have it.
I mean, really, there's nothing more to say about Sleepaway Camp. Once you go down the rabbit hole, you're all in.
Yeah,
So,
so we went from that to Jesus films. Yeah, how does that happen? But no, I remember Last Temptation, being like 10 years old, and then I think Criterion had just kind of recently started doing the DVDs. I mean, that's kind of, so that was around 2000, I was 10. And then we were, my stepdad at the, because we were at Tower Records, you remember the
mhm,
big Tower
mhm.
Records they used to have in Opry Mills, and my stupid stepdad at the time, I saw that and I was like, oh, it's a Jesus movie, because I'm 10, you know. And I was like, why is it rated R? And then he had all these, oh, it's horrible. It says this and this and this, and it doesn't. And he didn't know. And he was talking about how it was banned, and you know, the theater in Cookville wouldn't play it at the time. And it became this kind of really like I was like, oh, that's a bad movie, bad movie. And then I got into David Bowie a couple years later, and then found out David Bowie's in it playing Pontius Pilate, and I got mad at him for a while. And then I was 17. The Blockbuster, remember those? Had the DVD. I was 17. I could rent R-rated films on my own, and I did. And it really was the Jesus film that I had been waiting for because it honestly took him very seriously. It was more of a human Jesus, but didn't deny the divine aspects. And I love the way it's done, honestly.
There's a lot when it comes to those movies in portraying Jesus as a very static figure. He's just a very static character, even kill all the way through.
And just the Halo thing is you've got to be able to connect with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was, even the Bible says he was a regular human. So
Yeah.
he had regular feelings. Feelings that the closest we ever get is the scene where he's in the church where they've turned it into like a flea market
Hmm.
and he gets mad and goes crazy. My favorite and the approach to anger that I go to is typically his, where he just goes outside, fashions a whip real calmly, and then goes in there and releases all mortal hell.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's important to have that human aspect. And I do. I mean, I really think Last Temptation does what a lot of the films before did not do in taking him seriously and making. I think Willem Dafoe, you're able to really connect with him and those internal struggles
Mhm.
that he's having. Makes it a little easier for us to be able to view our own temptations and kind of
Mhm.
overcome them. And ultimately, he does overcome it, of course. And yeah, and so it was people who didn't even bother to watch the film at the time and read one little blurb. And I really think more people, and there's still a bit of a stigma around it.
I can't imagine any circumstance nowadays where people wouldn't do their own research to come to a proper conclusion and just trust the opinion of others
Oh yeah,
and state that as a
that
fact.
totally doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, because we have the internet where people. Okay, we're gonna go down a whole other trajectory here, but anyway.
Real quick, before we go to Camp Arawak and start talking about
Mm.
Sleepaway Camp and rental stores, because the first one I actually saw Sleepaway Camp
Oh
2.
wow.
Yeah, and the cover art was very misleading because at the time I was really into the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. The case had some lady and she had a hockey mask and a Freddy Krueger glove
I
coming out
know.
of a bag. And the poster art on the back where they would just show little clips of the movies, just like still frames from the movie, indicated that they might be characters in it. And so I bought it and I watched it and I said, what the hell is this? It's
Yeah.
awful. And so I kind of avoided Sleepaway Camp for a long time
Yeah, two and
because of
three
it.
are they're
A lot of
special.
people love them, but they're not for me. The first one is definitely.
Oh yeah, and to me, there's nobody but Felissa. that could play Angela. I mean, I enjoy them. I did watch them last year. I went through the whole Sleepaway Camp thing, and luckily, I mean, you can't find the Blu-rays or they're so expensive, and I'm definitely not spending up to like $100 on Sleepaway Camp 2. I did enjoy 2 way more than 3, I will say, and I have a crush in that. I can't remember his name. It's the hot guy with the dark hair, and we get to see him shirtless finally near the end. And I was able to go to Tumblr and find all those pictures for my my little photo archive. Got to edit that part out too. And you won't. I know you won't. So it doesn't matter because we're going to talk about Billy in the first one.
Exactly. And I think the issue with the sequels was that the first one, everything was so unintentional, whereas the sequels, the humor was very much intentional.
Yeah,
but it wasn't good humor.
And I don't really hate Pamela Springsteen's performance.
No, she does a good job. It's just the product she had to work with.
I think she should have been somebody. It should have been a different character, though. Them trying to sell her as Angela is what doesn't work for me.
Yeah, she's not even remotely close to Angela's character, so we're not really bringing anything back.
It should have been a different character, I think, character name, and it would have worked. Because also with Pamela Springsteen, they had to have that ridiculous. See, I only watched it once so far, but at the end of the end, she's got the hot guy I like and his girlfriend in that shed where all the dead bodies are. Which that was when it finally got like horrific to me, which I love. But like she's talking, it's like they had to throw in there that she's had a sex change since the first movie. That was a bit of a cop out to me. I felt, I have to be honest.
Yeah, Euphoria has done wonders with prosthetic dicks. You're telling me they couldn't slap on a prosthetic dick?
What, Bruce Springsteen's sister's too good for a prosthetic dick? I mean, come on. And then we got to talk a little bit about. I mean, and I'm sure you've seen the one that Robert Hiltzik actually did direct himself. Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah,
that one's hard for me to talk about.
I delved into it. I don't know if I finished it, and that's probably what most people would say about it.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but that sheriff is actually Felissa Rose. I'm sure you couldn't tell. That's the big reveal at the end. That's her. That was what killed me. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so since the movies are so different, you could have just made it a scary camp anthology. Have it take place at a different camp. People are being killed. Different reasons, especially since the character of Angela is so different now.
Yeah, and the funny thing is they are technically different camps. I mean, even 2 and 3. Like, what's the Camp New Horizons, or no, maybe that's the third one, with the inner city kids, which that one was tough to sit through. I was like, oh my God. But no, Return to Sleepaway Camp, that one I had a hard time, because I hated that the main kid, he's so annoying. And are you supposed to feel sorry for him? That. I kept hoping he'd get killed. I mean, and all he ever said to everybody was...
As I recall, he was a little jerk.
Oh, he was an asshole. This stinky, fat asshole. Because that's what he would say to everybody. He was like, oh, your ass stinks. Well, most people do. And he was so whiny, and no wonder nobody liked him. And I'm sorry. And his friends were the frogs. And just go play with the frogs. And it was great to see Ronnie again, though. But with a... interesting little dye job, like you'd see a little old lady at church on the hair. And then we saw Jonathan Tiersten come back as Ricky with his bleach blonde hair, and his acting. I love Jonathan. I hope he's not listening because I am friends with him on Facebook because I love him in the first movie. But also he didn't really have a lot to do in Return to Sleepaway Camp, and it's something I will probably never ever watch again. What a horrible... I
mean, don't get it twisted. I love every actor in this. With all of me, they provided me countless hours of joy.
Oh, yeah.
And rewatching this movie is very comforting.
Yeah, I never get tired of it.
It's like revisiting. Yes, it's exactly that. And I'm always picking up new things out of it. To be honest, yesterday when I was watching it, I was driving home.
Oh, really?
Don't be like me.
I was going to say, Dylan.
I was mostly just listening to it.
Right.
So I was catching a lot more of the audio cues and the stop music they were using. And it was just funny, and picking up on accents. The children at the beginning are so Jersey. I love it.
I know.
Everyone's so Jersey.
No, I did not, you liar.
It's great.
Peter.
So let's go ahead and get into it then.
Yeah, we might as well talk about the movie that we're here to talk about, yeah.
Yeah. We've ran the gambit. We've talked around everything around it. Now we're here for it.
Okay, now we're in. We're finally getting there. All right.
Yes, we're finally there. So, the movie opens in 1975 with a character named John and his partner, who this article has claimed to be Lenny. I didn't even know he had a name.
They never mention his name, yeah.
I'm gonna be really concerned if the Sleepaway Camp fan base is like the Star Wars fan base and they have a name for everybody.
They may, who knows, yeah.
And
That's why they named him Lenny. Yeah,
yes, they named him Lenny, and they have a whole backstory for him, I'm sure. But John and the kids are on a boat, and simultaneously we have this, what is it, a speedboat and someone jet ski? No, it's not jet skiing. What is it?
I thought that's what it was. I'm not well
it jet
versed
ski?
because I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, ask anybody I've been on a date with. I'm not a water sports enthusiast.
Oh God.
We have some kids jet skiing, and they're having their own little tussle. It seems like the girl's kind of flirty with the guy, wanting to steer the boat. There's the girl in the back who is holding on to the little rope, skimming the water, and she was given a different script, and she decided, fuck it, I'm gonna give my all to this performance.
She does. That girl.
Horror movies
Well,
haven't won an Oscar yet, but wait till they see me.
And this girl is, I mean, we'll get to that part very shortly, but she is amazing. And I want to know where she is. If you're listening, write me. I hope you're doing well. Anyway.
Hope you're doing well. Like, literally write us a letter. We have a Gmail, we have a Twitter. No excuses. We love you.
Yeah.
So, Angela and Peter, the two children, they capsize the boat. And
You little schemers.
You little schemers. Half of this
Yeah,
episode's
little
just going to be
schemers.
quoting lines. You might as well be.
I'm sorry, that's all my notes are, is my favorite line.
Literally, that's been my lines. Especially, Angela, what? Are you fucked up or something?
Oh no, that's my favorite line. I had written like, "Yo, Angela, how come you so fucked up?" Kenny says. That is my favorite line, and I laugh every time.
If ever
Yeah.
I was gonna get a tattoo.
You're gonna put it on your rib cage. Yo, Angela, how come you so fucked up?
Yes, right down the side with the little dream catcher with the feathers going off of it.
Yeah, it's an old Native American proverb.
With the little font. Usually people put a proverb down there, but no, that's gonna be it. Yo, Angela, why are you so fucked up?
You're gonna have it in Chinese as well. The little characters. This is gonna be like a 4-hour episode with us.
It's a deep dive. Come on, there's nothing new you can bring to the table with this. This is just a 2-fan experience, and it's just pure joy.
We're gonna gush, yeah.
Yeah.
That way about the film, yeah.
So the boy in the boat finally relents and lets this whiny girl steer the boat.
And that's what
She's
happens
not
when you
very
let a woman
good.
drive.
Yeah, I was gonna say this movie is problematic in that fact. We have a woman driver, and first thing she does is
Kills people.
barrel
Yeah.
toward the capsized boat. Now, for the person who is jet skiing, she does see it, and she is giving her best performance of the movie. She is screaming at the top of her lung, "There's a boat!"
What'd she say? Oh, people are. We hit a boat! Oh my god! Oh god! Oh, the people! What? And it's amazing. She doesn't even breathe.
Yes,
Yeah.
it definitely reminds me of early Hollywood, where they were still understanding the language of filmmaking. Like the original Dracula, you have a scene where Dracula goes outside, and then you just have the main characters narrating what Dracula's doing outside. It looks as though he's turned into a wolf. Now he turned into a bat,
Oh.
and he flew off. Oh, if only you could see this. It's really something.
I know. And then for me, like I mentioned earlier, and definitely with Multiple Maniacs is the one I would, the John Waters early film, I would compare that to, is because that was his first time he had sound. And that's what he talks about, everybody screaming, and it wasn't until Criterion and Janus Films remastered it that we could really hear everything. But that's why they have to scream so they can be heard, you know. But like I said, it's almost like she doesn't even breathe. And then her face, and I just love how you just see her shoulders in the water. It's just, again, the visuals in this film, you just kind of, there's certain shots, even just single shots, that will stick with you. And her face, she just gives it all. I mean,
I don't know if she's just been doing that shoot all day and she's sunburned, but her face is just so red.
I know, but she's into it, and then that countered with, I guess, Lenny, just the whisper in the John,
And then it cuts right back. Oh, but the one big important thing is Lenny says the doctor's coming. which is weird since they both know her.
Yeah.
I get the doctor's supposed to be Aunt Martha, but who recognizes someone that they know familiarly as their job title?
Yeah, and so that's why, I mean, obviously the first time I watched it, I would imagine most people the first time, I mean, that whole dialogue just completely flew over my head. Also flew over my head that they were lovers.
But looking back
don't
on
know.
it, they're
Yeah.
all very gay.
Oh yeah, I mean, but then again, you get that kind of hint there with the doctor, and then Aunt Martha's coming. Is she bringing Ricky? And then you're like, and you don't even think about it. 'Cause
No,
I'm like,
Ricky's with his dad.
yeah, no, Ricky's with his father. Things you got to pay attention to on at least the second viewing.
From there, the
Yeah.
movie cuts forward 8 years. It is now 1983. We're in the home of Aunt Martha, where Angela...
Aunt Martha.
Yes, Aunt Martha. She is a trip. Aunt Martha's house. Ricky and Angela are now living together, sort of a brother-sister sort of thing, even though they're cousins. One thing I have to say about Aunt Martha, she's taught me a lot in my life. When I have a very difficult customer, I turn on my Aunt Martha hard.
Oh.
When they want that good customer service and they're just being complete assholes, I just turn that on and say, wasn't that nice of me?
I need
Why,
to
I
do
packed
that.
a whole bag.
Richard, Angela. I mean, I think we all have the same. I'll watch YouTube reactions of people watching this film for the first time because for various reasons I really am interested in their reactions.
In reactions, yes.
And then when Aunt Martha comes on, everybody's like, what the fuck is this? I mean, and that was me. I was sitting there last year like, what is this woman? I recognized her little outfit because I'd seen that somehow before. I was like, what is the deal with this woman? Is this just Desiree Gold's acting choices? I've never seen her in anything else.
They have to be
But,
choices.
but that's the thing, and I think maybe people got it. I mean, surely people that have watched it, but of course, before we got to this sequence, I just realized we didn't. The dad and the little boy are dead. So
They're dead.
Angela, of course, is the survivor.
Allegedly. Yes, from what we know in the story, the
Or
little
are
boy is
they?
dead at this point in the story.
Because she's that little life vest.
They're getting ready to go to Camp Airwhack, and Ricky's kind of introduced as a little bit of a shit. Because...
I don't know. I would be like that, too, if that was my mom.
Oh, God, yeah. It is 7 in the morning, bitch. You're up here. I need you down here.
Yeah, poor Ricky. I totally feel for him in this introductory scene because I can't. You think of that? He's had to live with that for what 12 years now.
As
So
someone
he's
who
probably
is
about 12.
very much a night owl, morning people kill me, and Martha's very much a morning person.
It's like my coworkers when I get there in the morning. I'm like, I haven't had my coffee yet, and and I'm like, I know, I'm happy to see you too. I'm glad we're here. Do not talk to me until the coffee is gone. So. That's part of it, yeah.
I need it in my system.
Yeah, speaking of here.
I would love to see Aunt Martha and Annie Wilkes from Misery just
Oh, God.
together. I want them to form a book club.
The screen would explode from that amount
Just
of God. It's just
two goddesses
yeah.
on screen. A Titan versus
That's
a
the-
Titan.
That's the thing too, though. I think also that if you're a gay man watching it, then you will probably more fall in love with Aunt Martha. I don't know what, just because she's so over the top, and there is something hiding there because she's so over the top. So there's something there that I think our people kind of connect with.
Oh yeah. I wonder.
And then Angela's bag that looks like Frankenfurter's lab coat. If it's really quick, you got to see it, from Rocky Horror.
Yes, Aunt Martha packed them some snacks for the road, and we hear...
Got any chips?
Why, yes, there's
There's
a
a
whole
whole
bag.
bag.
But listening to it on my drive, I could hear the crinkling of the bag of chips. And he doesn't reach very far into the bag, which leads me to believe that there is a whole party-sized bag of chips in there. There's no
And
way
he
he
missed
wouldn't have
those?
seen...
Yeah.
And it would have taken up the whole bag. All he does is pull out the apple on top of the bag of chips.
There's a great freeze frame you can do of him when he's looking at the apple at Jonathan Tiersten's face, and he does that a lot in that scene. So I
Why an apple and some chips? Just give it to Angela. That way, if someone asks her about an Adam's apple, just tell her she has it stuck in her throat.
Oh yeah.
Which, in talking about covering things up, Aunt Martha presents the kids with their physical forms that they needed for camp. Just don't tell anybody that she's a doctor and that she filled them out.
And that's another thing that at first viewing just went right over my head. And I just thought, talking about it, maybe that's the reason they made her so crazy. The fact that you're watching it, especially for the first time, and you're just so consumed with this bitch is crazy. To like, you're so concerned with the way she's handling or delivering these lines that finally the physicals, that's something that you don't even think about because we've already established that she's nuts. And I just now realized that, and us discussing that, and it's kind of genius in a way.
You're hiding all these details inside of all this crazy. It's kind of like being in Las Vegas and seeing all the lights. You're clearly going to miss stuff. There's so much sensory overload going on, especially with the style choices. This movie has aged like milk, but in a very good way. It's turned into cheese.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that, and it's good. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah.
We'll get to a little bit later, but the fashion choices in this are just chef's kiss.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would wear Aunt Martha's outfit around the house. I mean, getting that
exactly.
little hat,
She's like a little sailor.
I know, like a crazy.
I think we can probably infer that when they say 8 years later, it's 8 years later to the day. So I'd like to think this is Aunt Martha's little memorial of the day that what's his name died and left her when John died. So this is her little way to commemorate the ship accident.
Well, she's so messed up that would fit for sure.
Okay, one thing I kind of want to talk about, how complicit do we think Ricky is in what Aunt Martha's doing with Angela?
Oh gosh,
there had to be signs. Like your siblings, you'll eventually see each other naked. It just happens.
I think my thought is, and again, I thought about this watching it last night, and I was watching the kind of the making of on the Shout Factory Blu-ray where they're talking to everybody. And then Jonathan Tiersten said it himself, but I believe Ricky knows. I think he knows that Angela is really Peter. And that's another way this movie's really progressive, at least for the time. That's why he's so protective of her. And that's really great because it's probably not the attitude especially most teenage boys would have had in 1983 in real life. I think that's just kind of because they've grown up together and they have that bond that, like you said, is more sibling than cousins. And I think Ricky definitely knows. That's what struck me the first time. He was way more protective and everything of her than normally you would see with just cousins. I mean, you hope your cousins stick up for you or whatever, but I think he knows. Another way he's complicit, I think, well, we'll get into that later.
Is it a good attitude to have in theory? Yes, but at the same time, if you know your mother is doing this against this person's will, so could this be a like half and half, a mixed cocktail of Aunt Martha and
I think
Angela?
So, yeah.
Angela having some sort of mental trauma from her accident? Because we have that whole little flashback or sequence where her and her brother are both at the bed and they're pointing at each other.
Yeah. And I've got that in here, yeah.
Sort of like a Psycho situation where one takes on the identity of the dead family member.
The way I read that one is, I mean, I think it's all Aunt Martha. And then just from the trauma and everything that Peter had, and we're definitely jumping ahead here, but when you see him all bandaged up at the end, he was, especially as a child, he was definitely in a vulnerable state, and it was forced upon him to become Angela. So, but then that does beg the question. I mean, maybe Ricky doesn't know that Angela's really a boy, but at the same time, I kind of feel like he does. So, but that's what this movie does, and that's why it really is a lot deeper, I think, than maybe most people would give it credit for. When you dig below the acting choices and things, there is a lot to unpack, as we will see.
A lot of it kind of sketchy. I was thinking about that today. This movie is about 30% slasher, and the rest is just a children's camp movie. And it's not to be it's not to be understated.
Yeah, no, really, it is. Yeah,
it's not to be understated with the film, but in a lot of horror movies, when you have kids, they're 20, 30-year-olds pretending to be teenagers. I really do like that this movie has actual kids mixed with
really
20,
helps.
30-year-olds.
Which is what I had, I've definitely got that in my notes as well, and that's something that Robert Hiltzik had spoken of. The fact that with the first Friday the 13th, it came out in 1980, of course, that all happened before the kids even got there. Even then, for the counselors, they look a little older, but that was what was really refreshing for me. And it's really funny that I really gravitate also towards these summer camp horror films or summer camp themed movies, because I never went to one. and I never had
I
any
always
desire to
wanted
go
to.
to one. Now I do. I wish I had, especially even after watching Wet Hot American Summer. So that's kind of the other like non-horror side of that. But yeah, it's something I have this sort of affinity for summer camp movies, especially in the summer. But yeah, that was really refreshing to see actual kids. Again, where this is just a really weird mixed bag. You've got that authenticity of having actual children, and that makes the atmosphere. But then you've got the acting choices, and then some of the way that certain events unfold. Maybe that's what makes this so enduring. It's just a mixture, and maybe there's just something in there for
Well,
everybody.
we have people who are definitely good actors. I think maybe the director knew what he was doing and had to scale people down. You're
Yeah,
right
I think
here,
so.
everyone
Yeah.
else is right here. I need you to be about right here, because otherwise
Yeah.
it's going to look like shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they've pretty much established in this story that
Yeah.
Angela is kind of shy and precocious
Yeah.
and kind of keeps to herself, and Ricky's more of her voice. And
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
this a lot when they actually get to camp, because it's a straight cut of them getting off the bus and there's just kids everywhere in this terribly spray painted.
All of Felicia's relatives, yeah.
All of
Yeah.
Felicia's relatives. And later we get a line from Ricky, there's not enough boys to get a game started with.
Oh, yeah.
I think of that and I'm counting on my hands. There were so many kids just running around. You could pick up a game. But suddenly
They
there's
lost
about
two.
12 campers.
Yeah, that's the thing. And they only lost two, which we'll get to at that point. Yeah.
Yes, and we're
And they definitely had a baseball game.
They definitely had a baseball game, and I love that baseball game dearly.
Oh, that's the longest damn baseball scene. But
it's worth it. If The Sandlot was more like this baseball game, I would have loved that movie.
yeah, if it was made for the gays, Billy, I mean, holy crop tops, Batman. And then Billy's shorty shorts. Again, Billy is my love. I don't care that he's a total asshole. And
I can fix him.
well,
I can fix him.
I can fix him. He hasn't met me. Yeah. And now
you don't
he never
know him
will.
like I know him.
Oh, he's gorgeous, though. I mean, he's just absolutely gorgeous, that man. Ugh. All right, anyway. I need
Yeah, I know
some water.
it's getting hot in here.
Ooh, Lord. Yeah, naked Sleepaway Camp interview. Yeah.
Angela's kind of meeting everybody at the camp with Ricky, and we run into Paul. We're given an exposition to Judy.
Man, oh man. You'll see.
And it's at this point that I notice the entire cast. At this point, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, I want every one of your shorts. Every one of
I
them.
know.
Because they're so nice.
I know.
Now, I don't
That's
think
the first time we see Ronnie.
When they were asking about director notes, I feel like they just said, yeah, we need about 6-inch inseams. No, I mean on the acting. Yeah, and I said 6-inch inseams. What of it? Except
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
You get 5.
God, I mean, I know it's the 80s, but yeah, when you first see Ronnie standing there with Mel, and you're like, Jesus. And then they get shorter. I mean, I think the next thing, then they get a little longer. Ronnie, I have a note later on here about Judy's gigantic ponytail, how that itself is a character in the film. I think it is. And Ronnie's shorts in themselves are another character in this film. It's very important. So anything I think that draws your attention and is something you remember, I would consider that an important part and character.
In about 100 years, English classes are going to be discussing this movie. So what do the inch inseams of Ronnie's pants tell us about the character's motivation? What is the writer and the auteur trying to tell us about the stakes at this moment?
Shit. Because he's working out. If you got it, flaunt it. He wants those thighs to be popping, so when we see him with the weights in the background there later on.
And compared to Mel is just this old Italian New Jersey guy just smoking a comically large cigar.
Always.
Looks like he has no business running a children's summer camp.
Yeah, he smells horrible with that.
God, yeah.
And a little frumpy man, which we will get into later with Meg. Like, what the hell is that about?
All the that's another thing. All the adults in this movie are just fucked up individuals.
Yeah, because we also meet somebody else.
Yeah, during this little camp introduction, we're met with the kitchen crew, starring James Earl Jones's father, Robert Earl Jones.
Who's precious. Yeah, Robert Earl Jones. And then I love the way he laughs off Artie. And which that kills me. And they're too young to even understand what's on your mind. And then, so yeah, let's talk about Artie.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Artie. That there's no illusions there are no pretenses.
Mm-hmm.
Artie is a
Yeah.
child molester, for
But
lack of a
yeah,
better
and we get
term.
that from the get-go.
If nothing else,
Baldies.
he very heavily sexualizes these children.
And they all know it. How is he still working
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah. He makes a off-color joke about the kids, a very off-color joke, and it just gets laughed off like it's just, oh, you know, Artie.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so, that's the one thing, and rightfully so, especially today, it's so disturbing, which it always was disturbing. And he's sucking on that, like,
Piece of hay,
what is that?
or
Like, piece of hay, and he's like, yeah, where I come from, we call them baldies. Ugh. I mean, it's just, but it's setting it up, and that was one note I had here that luckily they set him up as the one that we all universally, as watch this film, we want him to die first, and that's the first big win is when he dies.
thankfully, but still, the whole kitchen staff is complicit in this
Oh
man's
yeah.
ogling. If someone said that to me at all,
Mm-hmm.
I want them out of the space. Like the kid,
Exactly.
even if the kids are safe, even if they're not going to act on it, that's not okay for you to
No,
be working in the
absolutely.
kitchen. Maybe it's just because he's
It's
the only one
insane.
who can lift up that huge ass pot of water.
That's the biggest pot I have ever seen in my whole life.
You
I
are
mean,
not
it's
going to boil
ridiculous.
shit in that pot.
Yeah, it'd take maybe like 2 days. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You're the moment you come
Crazy.
into work, you're gonna have to turn that bad boy on, and then by dinner time, you're gonna be able to throw.
It's just, it's so big. It's so ridiculous. But I guess they had to for
Mm-hmm.
his ultimate demise. Yeah.
I think the next scene we get to is the girls' cabin, where we're introduced to.
Well, yeah. Well, before that, Ricky does see Judy. It's just that this is kind of an important part to me, just
Yes,
because, and she's
Judy,
talking
man,
to,
oh man, and she's talking to some boys who look like they're about 20 or 30.
which makes it to me okay to have a crush on Billy because of that. But
Yes,
just like, yeah, all right. And then I just love that, which don't you know girls mature faster than boys? And then and I mean this is not right, but I just love the way when she walks off. He's like, "Well, excuse me, bitch."
bitch.
I mean, it's just Ricky just has a potty mouth, which we will definitely hear more of as the movie goes on.
Oh yeah, he has very foul language, but I can understand him being enthralled by seeing Judy and her apparently big boobs.
Are they that big? No disrespect to Karen Fields, but are they that big?
No,
I
I mean
guess to
compared
boys,
to
yeah.
compared to Angela.
Well, maybe Judy
Who,
like the year before was that, and then she got her boobies, and now she's like hot shit. She thinks because she's got her tits, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know what that's like, so
yeah,
I
Angela
can't.
doesn't have boobs, so
Well, I had to press even her little bosom that she was talking about. Felicity on the thing she had, well, because she's a boy supposed to be.
yeah,
So, and,
yeah, the Danish girl who.
Italian as hell, maybe, and also she does. She's got the boobs now because she looks amazing.
She does. She is so she just seems like a really good person.
Yeah, she's so nice. I mean, even when I got obsessed with this last year, I had a picture of me just trying to like do that face with her, and
Hmm.
she commented on it, and it's just so sweet. And I keep hoping that she'll be at a convention soon that I can go meet her at. So, but she's traveled, and Jonathan's kind of joined her too. But so hopefully I'll get to meet her soon. But yeah, so that happens, and then we are in the girls' bunk, and we are introduced to Meg and the
MEG.
EG, in case you had any trouble.
And the complaints department.
Which is what's her name? Susie, I think is her.
Susie, yes,
Yeah,
Susie is the complaints department.
the only like decent counselor that these girls have.
Yes, because the rest of them are just kind of horny as hell.
Oh yeah, I mean, so they're leaving, and that, as we all know in horror movies, it's the horny teenagers that get gone first, or get got first. And then that's the thing. I think that's the other note I had. That yes, when we first see Angela, just sort of with this very creepy but very effective stare, she's just staring at Judy, and I mean, I would get kind of upset. I don't blame Judy in this at all. I mean, somebody just staring at me like
Yeah,
that with those big black eyes.
clearly, they don't need to make fun of her as much because at this point, I'm getting some sense of some neurodivergency.
Oh yeah,
Maybe turn her to face the window, but you're
yeah,
not gonna stare at me.
yeah.
Like,
Because
what?
there's definitely that's the kid that you don't want to make fun of. I mean, and there's that should be the first clue, but of course the bullies in these movies never get that. I think that's about it for that one.
Really, every character in this is shitty enough they could be the murderer.
In a way, yeah, yeah. But I mean, for me, the first time watching it, I mean, I think that's also the point of that. It kind of set up for me that oh, it's Angela. Angela's gonna kill them all, and then I kind of liked her for that more, you know. Um, I think that's it. And then I've got here the next one was like so there. Then we're in the dining hall, which is
The
looks
dining hall,
it's
and
so appetizing with all the fly paper hanging from everywhere with a million flies.
oh yeah, and Wet Hot American Summer really nailed it.
Oh yeah.
This was an actual summer camp, so I believe everything we see here is 100% authentic. And
And yeah,
you have the all these little cheers going on from all the separate bunks.
that's what I was about to ask about. Because I guess it's because I never went to summer camp, but I really didn't get the whole like, what is this? Quiet, please. Dedicated to bunk 9. Thanks for nothing. And then they were like, do you know more about that or what that is? Because I have no idea.
I do know at some camps they have it's like a little prank thing, and they have different competitions for the
Mm,
different bunks,
yeah.
like who finishes their plate fastest or who keeps
Oh,
the cleanest cabin, those sorts of things. And so it's kind of like Hogwarts houses in a way.
oh, I guess so.
So
Yeah,
you have little mantras you learn per cabin.
I had no idea, and that's why I wrote that down last night. I'm like, what the hell is this? The only other reason for that I could think of is that it's again kind of playing with the viewer where you're focused on that, so you don't see the wide shot right in front of you of you already see Meg and Mel, and I think he kind of like touches her butt a little bit, doesn't he? She walks off, and you don't see that the
Yeah.
first time, and then you're like,
But
what?
on a Blu-ray,
On the Blu-ray, yeah, but that's the other thing. Okay, so they've got a known pedophile, child molester,
hmm
as the head chef. Nobody's doing anything about it. These two, the camp owner with the teenage girl, and that's broad daylight in front of everybody. And people, because I think Ronnie's sitting at the table with them, right? And nobody.
hmm
I'm like, you know, so is this okay? I would like to think. I mean, I know it was 1983, but
Ronnie is very beautiful, but not very smart. That's why we
yeah,
keep him around. He looks
yeah.
good and doesn't ask too many questions.
That's probably what. Yeah, I think that's what Ronnie is. He's definitely the Rocky from like a Rocky Horror sense.
The
It's
Italian
what it
Rocky
is.
Horror.
Oh, he would
The
definitely
short
be the
shorts are
Italian.
just in his uniform.
Yeah, he's definitely a super Italian Rocky. For Rocky Horror, I say that, and then I keep thinking Rocky Balboa, of course. So it's difference. It's difference.
You could honestly say both. He kind of looks like Rocky Balboa.
But he did. I mean, with that body, I mean, it's a little too muscly for me. But I mean, hey, if you got it, flaunt it. That's what I say. So
Well, they didn't make him for you.
I didn't make him for you. That's fine. Like I said, too much. But I don't like men with too many muscles. So okay, more Rocky Horror crossover. And then so they get him there, and then Angela's not eating, and they say, don't they
Yes, and
say,
they're trying to find something for her to eat because she's just not eating, and that kind of causes a stir with the rest of the girls, talking about how they're spoiling the little brat already.
oh yeah, they're jealous. But so then we go into the kitchen.
Artie and Angela and Ronnie. And Ronnie's like, hey, can you get her something to eat? Maybe some ice cream or something? She doesn't like your cooking. Okay, bye.
I know when he says that, he's like, apparently she doesn't like your cooking. He's like, okay, that's. I mean, even though it's Artie, come on. But that close, I mean, it's so, and again, it's in plain sight. That's what gets a little infuriating, I think, for viewers. With a hello, Angela. I mean, he's right. I mean, there's like their faces right there, and I mean, Felissa
Mhm.
talks about how they both would like just bust up laughing because, of course, the guy in real life, what's his name, Owen Hughes. I mean, he was a really sweet guy and nothing like that, of course. but they were like laughing. It took forever for them to get that. And so they go into the walk-in, and like he says, you never know what you're gonna find in there. And what I hate, what makes it even worse, is then we cut back to it, and you know, he's asking her, he's like, "See anything you like?" And I'm always like, "Well, sure as shit, not you." I mean, God, Artie. I mean, it's just, you know. And then Ricky's trying to find out what happened to Angela. He's sticking up for her again because Meg's talking shit like she does, and but Ricky to the rescue, you know, because I and
Yes, and Ricky sees it and spouts his regular spew of curses, and they
actually, I
just
think
leave.
well, I think with
And
that one, all he says is, What are you doing?" And he's like, you know, pushes him up against. Apparently, like Jonathan Tiersten had to be just like pushed repeatedly, and got these like rows on his back. I mean, poor kid. And then of
he
course,
just has the aesthetic of a chihuahua.
oh, he really
Just
does.
always just running around yelling, very high
And
energy.
he's
I love it.
protective, and he can't really do anything like a chihuahua because they're so small.
Mhm.
But and I love that you've got that very dramatic then punch from Artie into the box of
Mhm.
Tubby something, which is really funny to me. I don't know why. And
I
the other
love
thing
watching
is,
old food labels.
I know, and the other thing is that kills me. Um, so Mel's in the kitchen now again with another gross cigar, and Artie comes back in adjusting his belt, and they don't, you
Like he
know.
didn't think something was going on, but it's Mel,
And
so we
plus,
know.
what Artie says, I guess it must have scared him. Well, first of all, what'd you do to scare them? Secondly, you're adjusting your belt. And then Mel, again, well, reputation, and he doesn't care about that. So
But Mel's
that's,
just as bad. Game recognized game.
oh, absolutely. So that's why it's very rewarding as a viewer. We have to wait because he's basically the
Yeah.
last one that happens when Mel gets his, and it's very, very, because he's
Yeah,
horrible.
the Artie and Mel were probably cellmates. Well, at least it is 1,000 miles away. I mean, 1,000 feet away from a school.
Shit. But it's just Jesus. I mean, it's horrible. But that was the next scene I had down here. So Artie with the biggest damn pot I have ever seen in my entire life. That we've
Yes,
already talked about.
they still. I mean, they do a good job keeping what's going on in shadow and off of screen. We do
Hmm.
see him seasoning this big pot with just a regular shaker of salt. Go ahead and open that thing and just dump it
I
in.
mean, the thing's like what, 9 feet tall? I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's so big that this grown man, who is pretty tall,
Hmm.
it looks like he's at least 6 feet tall, has to get up on a chair to season this pot of water.
I know. It's crazy. And then we start seeing the
And we see,
POV. Yeah.
yes, we get the POV and we see the hand grab the leg of the chair
And
and
whose hands
start
are
pulling
they?
away.
Yeah.
Exactly, they're just tan little Italian New Jersey hands.
But definitely not Felissa Rose's. I mean, so we know that's Jonathan Tiersten's,
Yeah, yeah.
which were
Ricky.
used for certain purposes. I do use that, though, in my theory, that it is both Angela and Ricky committing these murders.
Really? You think it's both of them?
I really, truly believe, may, I think for this first one for sure, in my sort of fan theory, I really think this one's
Hmm.
Ricky because he knew what was going on. I don't think Angela yet would be doing that, but I, especially with it's a giant pot full of water.
Hmm.
Uh, and he's not that he's as strong, but he, I mean, it's the kind of, I mean, he's a boy, so it's, you know,
Neither of them really have the strength.
yeah. I mean, so I mean, they really, I mean, but they push Artie on his ass, and we have to get that like close up of his butt, which luckily is it's covered by pants, but it's like really stained, and it's, you know, it kind of looks a little odd. But
He's kind of thick, though.
oh, he's a thick boy, yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
so
say it's a kind of a thick butt.
yeah, so I think because Ricky walked in and saw that, and because he was slammed against the food pantry, I really believe this one's Ricky.
Okay.
And well, we know it's a kid from the lines. I mean, "Hey, watch it, little fucker! You could have killed. You know, I'll make an ice cream sundae." You know, and it's like all that stuff. But it is kind of funny too. Also, you think though, even though we really want him to die, Artie, Why could he not get down from the? I mean, the
I was
fact that
gonna
he,
say, couldn't he just do like a good push up and fall
yeah,
and kill the kid that's trying to do this to him?
or just get off the chair somehow. I mean, it does seem like it's a little. There's a couple kills in this movie that you look at and you think, why didn't you just do that? Maybe it's the
Mm-hmm.
shock of it, but with Artie's, I mean, he's only like holding on to that top shelf, right? And then
Right.
somehow the chair's pulled out and he somehow grabs the pot. So this is one of those things that doesn't add up, but I think it's okay and it's forgiven when you watch it because you just want this guy to die. Um,
Yes.
and I know I did. And speaking of his, I mean, but I think the budget for this film all went to the visual effects, and for that I'm so thankful. Um,
Oh yeah, this is a great scene. Whenever the
yeah,
somehow in his fall he grabs for the pot of boiling water that's
yeah,
6 foot tall, and the water just gets all over him, and he's on the floor, and all we get is just this close up shot of these boils and
and they're
3rd-degree burns just
pulsating, yeah,
pulsating and steam coming off of him. It's
and that
very effective,
scream.
and he's just screaming. But something that I found even funnier is they do the cut to the next scene and he's still screaming as
I
the
know.
ambulance is taking him away. So this whole time from the incident happening to the ambulance getting there, to the ambulance addressing his wounds, to the ambulance putting him on the stretcher, and even out as they take him out
I
to
know.
the ambulance, he is screaming just with his hands in the air, like Tevye and Fiddler on the roof.
It's amazing, and I think that's the only reason that you really like it. And it's like it goes on even when he's on the floor with that, which I guess I would be too if I had scalded myself with a big pot of hot water.
Don't know. I was thinking about it. I don't know. A pot of water that hot, eventually, aren't you going to burn your, scald your nerves?
Yeah, you would think, but also what's funny to me in that is just, of course, Robert Earl Jones comes in, and again, what can you do? So I don't blame him for standing there, but just like, when it keeps like, cutting to his face. But then the doctor that's there, and that's one of my favorite lines, which is so stupid. Is Mel goes, okay, what's the prognosis? Well, he's badly burned all over, especially his face. No
Especially his
shit.
face. And then
No
Ronnie
shit,
asks, "What about
Sherlock.
his
Yeah.
eyes?
What about his eyes?
His
What have you done
what
to
about
his
his eyes?"
eyes? Yes.
Rosemary's Baby. I love it. Yeah. What about his eyes? What does that have to do with anything, Ronnie?
I don't know. Oh yeah, because Ronnie asked
Maybe.
that.
Maybe he's a supervisor and he's like, so he can still come into work tomorrow and watch kids, right?
I know. That's what it is. It's like, but
It's
that
like,
line
damn, Artie
kills
was.
me.
We gotta have Artie. He was our 3rd judge on the swimsuit competition.
Oh God, probably. But that just kills me, and that kills everybody that watches it. I mean, well, he's badly burned. Duh. Okay. Like, I mean, it's so funny to me.
And then to not tell anybody, Mel gives the kitchen staff an extra $15 a week and promotes Robert Earl Jones's character. And he says,
Yeah.
"Well, to tell the truth, I always knew he had a little bit of devil in him." A
But
little.
I guess like Robert, like, come on now. I mean, and it's just.
The man made lewd sexual jokes at vastly underage children.
And you laughed it off. Ha 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 ha. It's so. I mean, but hey, he gets $50 more a week. So 1983 money. That's yeah.
That's
So
real money.
yeah. So we then go. I'm sorry. I feel like I've kind of taken over on. I didn't mean to like doing this chronological scene thing, but that's how I broke up my notes. But so we're back in the. Are you okay with that?
Oh yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. You're ecstatic. I'm ecstatic.
I that's what it
Ecstatic.
is. I'm
Blah, blah,
so
blah.
I'm so freaking ecstatic. Yeah. So we get to it goes to the boys' bunk now, and then what they call the kid
The
Mozart.
mind over matter scene.
It's the stupidest
We got
speech,
to
but
talk about Mozart for a minute. I love Mozart to
he's
death.
yeah, poor
He's so
Mozart.
precious.
Yeah,
I feel like I would be the little Mozart.
I feel
And
like
the
I would be
scene is
too. Yeah,
just playing his games, doing his own thing, but everybody's still picking on him.
but the
If
funny.
anything, Mozart should have been the killer.
Well, and I think that's also been a theory for some people, especially with the pocket. Well, it's not. It's a little bit bigger than a pocket knife that we'll see later. The other thing with Mozart's character, though,
That's a red flag.
is it is a red flag, but I think that's kind of set up to make you maybe think that. They do kind of give him shit, but also it's nowhere near what Angela's dealing with, and it's nowhere near kind of the bullying that we would see in other sort of scenarios in other films. So to me, I never once thought about Mozart being a possibility of being the murderer. But yeah, this speech that Ricky has, and I think Jonathan Searson said it in the making of thing I was watching last night, that it was originally even longer, if you can believe that, because it goes on, and it's like just mind over matter,
Mind over matter.
focus, my dear boy, or concentrate. It's like, and you're the same age, for one thing.
Basically the setup of this is Mozart's on the floor with his eyes covered, and they're doing this sort of lighter than a feather, stiffer than a board thing, where if
Yeah.
Mozart is able to will his body to be heavier, he won't be able to do a single sit-up.
Yeah.
And it's all just some sort of a campground prank that they do.
And we have to see a child's ass. Yeah.
That's exactly what we get to see. We get to see a child's nose go right into another child's ass.
Which Chris collects. Which it's the same. It's the thing where you think of it and you're like, okay, well, obviously, it's not a big. It's like in. I'm sorry, I keep bringing John Waters into this. Of course, you knew I would. You knew what you were signing up for. But like, there's the beginning of Desperate Living, that John Waters film, which the first time I watched it, I mean, Mink Stole. That's the best part, is the very beginning when she's going nuts and everything's wrong, and she walks in on her little. It's their little kids, the boy and the girl, and they're playing doctor, and they literally are playing doctor, by the way, and they're completely nude, and you freak out as a viewer. You're like, oh my god, naked children, and you're freaking out with Peggy freaking out, and then you realize, but they're just kids and they're not doing anything really. So it's kind of how you have your mind in the gutter. And there was something similar that Robert Hiltzig did with Return to Sleepaway Camp. When that one's, I remember in the beginning, I got a little uncomfortable because I think it was right when it started, it was in a boys' bunk, and these are real teenage boys in their underwear. And it seemed a little like, did you really need to go there? And then you think about it and you're like, well, that's the way they would be. But it's just from, these days we kind of think about that and how people would view that. But I guess it is shocking. It was shocking to me to see Chris Clay's bare ass, which I guess his parents signed off on. I hope I'm saying his name right, by the way. I think it's Chris Calais. I think that's what it is.
I think.
But
Like Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe Calais.
Kobe Calais, yeah. But it was very obvious from this to see where heavyweights got that bit from. Luckily, we didn't have to see any children's asses in that film, the latter. But with the Uncle Tony, like doing that. So that was the other one I was trying to think of. Another summer camp movie I absolutely love is Heavyweights. That took a lot of
Heavyweights.
inspiration from a lot of some of this. But then we get into the baseball scene.
It's like how straight people are when they watch Avatar. You're just enamored by the scenery and what they were able to capture on film.
I mean, yeah, and I like it because I think we know that the guys that we're looking at are in their 20s. But this is where we really, actually, I think this is where we first see Billy, and in the shorty shorts, which I normally don't like jean shorts, and then he's got that. I mean, it's
top and tube socks.
Oh my god! And I never knew that was my type until this movie I watched, and then it's just Lloris is so beautiful, but then his lines. I mean, when Ricky's up to bat, and then it's like, oh no, this guy blows dead dogs. That's one of the best lines. And then eat shit and die, Ricky. Eat shit and live, Bill.
Eat shit and live, Bill.
That should always be everyone's retort to that.
That's the tattoo I'll get in Chinese.
Eat shit and die.
Eat shit and live.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. And then they try to like throw it to or hit it to Mozart, and he's playing his little game, and he's like shit, and it's like running off. And I love how he just like collapses like the cowardly lion in the poppy field, And it's like, you didn't do anything. You've not been involved in this. But of course, our team wins against Bill and the bad kids, and that's when we first kind of see Kenny. I think the first line Kenny has is "fuck you, Ricky." It's like such language, but we have to remember these kids are in New York.
Again, you gotta wonder, what is this camp counselor thing where you have people who are in their 20s and 30s as campers, and then you have these 12, 13, 14-year-olds also as campers.
But you just kind of, or at least I just kind of buy it. Because once you're in it, it's such a strange world, yet it is so familiar, even in life like me. You've never been to a summer camp. But we've all seen the films. We all know it's a very American thing. It's very...
But you get the experience. I feel like this movie gives you that wonderful camp experience, and that's why I wanted to cover it.
It really
here
does,
in June. Because if you don't get to go to camp, this is everything you're going to get at a summer camp, and then some.
Yeah. And a lot of the cast talks about that they, when they read it, they were like, oh my God, this is actually like camp that they went to when they were growing up.
You're getting paid to go to camp.
And they really did. I mean, they were at this camp. So that long baseball scene, but because we get to look at Bill, I'm fine with it, I guess, you know. But it's very interesting that you started off with this scene in the social, the first social that we have, where we actually see.
I love it.
It's the first one where it looks like there are enough kids there to be a social. We'll get to the others later, but okay. So my favorite line does happen. We've already talked about that with Kenny, and then there's another line that I love because I would just always raise my hand like they can see me. But it's talking about how kind of gay these guys are. When Bill, he's like talking to the girls, and he says, "Well, who wants to go skinny dipping with 15 guys and just 5 girls?" I'm like, "Well, me." And you can lose the girls too. They're not interested. So I mean, I love that. If I ever do a reaction video of like movies like that that I love, I'm just gonna be like me.
And Bill's reaction is, "To hell with you."
The other thing I had down, of course, is you already see some of this weird shit between more weird shit between Mel and Meg.
There's not some
and
weird
that
shit.
smile and everything. And poor little Angela, she's just sitting there with
She's
her
just
watch,
sitting there eating
with your
a chocolate bar.
Yeah. And I love, it's made me, I need to go get some whatchamacallits today, because I was thinking, I loved those when they used to give us candy before everybody got like really obese. They used to have candy. I don't know if you had this growing up. They probably got rid of it by the time you were in 5th and 6th grade. But yeah, we used to be able to get sodas and candy, and I used to get whatchamacallits all the time.
With the social scene, you get these kids trying to dress their best. Because it is a social...
Oh, are you talking about what I was about to talk about? Oh,
probably. Because they're in their quote-unquote nice clothes. It's the first time you see more than one person wearing jeans.
Oh, you're talking about that. Yeah, because Kenny's friend, what's his name, Mike, I think? Because later on he's making out with Judy. I mean, he looks like he's going to a job interview. Very 80s, and he looks great. I was going to talk about another favorite shot of mine is when those doors swing open. Ricky comes in with that fucking cowboy hat on that's bigger than he is. It's literally a 10-gallon hat. And
it's called peacocking.
And I mean, it does have a feather in it. And it's the funniest thing because Jonathan Tiersten is so adorable in this. I mean, he's just he's a cute little boy. And he's fairly skinny, and to see him come in totally being swallowed whole by this cowboy hat that he apparently did not want to wear. But it's got to be there for Kenny to knock off, because then we get, I mean, they're being such assholes. So Mike's like, "Hey, Angela, who does this remind you of?" And he's walking so stiff. And then it's like, I mean, they're such dicks. And then my favorite line is, "Yo, Angela, how come you're so fucked up?" And then Ricky says an obscenity that I didn't write down. And then he just whacks that cowboy hat off. And then we get our first all-male orgiastic teenage boy dog pile. So, again, try and tell me Robert Hiltzik did not make this, at least in part, for the gays.
Oh, no, he had to make it wholeheartedly for the gays.
And we'll see that in the next scene.
Everything from the fashions, you have the Blue Oyster Cult shirt that one of the kids at the social's wearing, which I just loved.
No, that's Kenny, yeah.
And then we have Billy trying to convince everybody that they're going to do a skinny dip, which is hilarious because the boys are already getting undressed, even though the girls clearly don't want to do it. And he just says, "Well, to hell with you!" And all the boys just take off for the water.
And that's a favorite shot of mine, as I'm sure yours as well.
Yes.
I mean, they're little bare.
It's
and
like,
I noticed
bare asses.
And I noticed last night, one of the guys, the shorts are coming down as he runs. I mean, it's so homoerotic, and it's
the
so
tan lines.
Oh yeah, and it's like, oh, the water's warmer at night. Bullshit. Like we all know that. But yeah,
I'm not getting in there. There's water moccasins.
why is Billy so adamant about getting naked? I mean, other than the horny teenage boy, I guess that's what it is. But the
I don't
fact,
know. It's supposed to be. You'd think it'd be awkward that many straight men in the water, but they look like they're having a damn good time.
yeah, because none of the girls want to do that, and yet they go ahead. So it makes me, I like it because it makes me think that I really would have a shot with Billy. You know, had I been there, I probably would have been killed, but what a way to go. There's one, but before we get to that, I just wanted to say, I mean, there's a really big important part that happens after the male orgy at the rec
Hmm.
hall that Paul goes up to Angela, and this is the part that I remember I showed it to my best friend Catherine, and she was like not really into this. This is not really her thing, but even this part, she was like, oh, because they're talking, you know, and
Hmm.
Paul's saying stupid shit because he's a boy about hanging the girl's panties on a flagpole. You see Angela, sorry. Well, we got in
So
trouble.
I just want to enjoy my whatchamacallit. Leave me alone.
Well, yeah, and then but it is really sweet because, and you see her, and this is again, I noted this later in the film, but it's really impressive how Felissa, at such a young age, and for this to be like the first big role, she
Hmm.
really, and I'm being totally serious here, she has such wonderful subtleties and nuances to her performance. And because
Hmm.
she has, up until the end of this scene, she has to convey everything with her eyes and just very
Hmm.
subtly, and you just see her very subtly, and she gets interested in what he's saying, and then he gains her trust. Gino comes back, or Gene, whatever, and you know, to bunk 19's got to go, and then he says, "Well, good night," and you don't expect her to say anything, and then that sheepish little "good night," and then you're all, as a viewer, you're like, "Oh my god, he made her talk," and then his
It's
good
so cute.
night. It's so adorable.
It's
And
so precious.
and it sets up, you've already kind of been invested in Angela, and this, not a lot of the movie has happened so far, but because of that you feel bad for her, you really want her, and then you see that what we think, I think he's still a good kid, you know, but
Hmm.
Paul, he takes the time and he really talks to her, and it's just so sweet, and I think that's what, again, that's intentional to set up the heartbreak, a bit of a heartbreak and the shock of the final scene. So anyway, so the boys are naked in the water, and
I
then,
just love the scene, just real quick, for Angela.
oh sorry, yeah,
She's giving the most in her performance, eating her little whatchamacallit, and
yeah.
looking like she just does not want to be fucked with. Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever just given a look where you just do not want to be fucked with? And kudos for Paul for
Mm-hmm.
breaking down that barrier, but if I were her, I just. Don't you see me eating my whatchamacallit? I clearly am looking, intentionally looking like I do
Yeah.
not want to be fucked with, and here you are,
I think, well,
getting in my fucking business with my
but I
whatchamacallit.
think it also, she allowed him to, I mean, she definitely had that wall up with Kenny and Mike, you know, because who wants to talk to them anyway? I think that I was going to get into this as we go along with the scenes, but Angela likes Paul. I think there's an attraction there. I think there's some confusion there, which
And
I'll
Paul
touch on.
wasn't good enough for her.
Well, he could have been. We'll get there. We got a lot to uncover. So anyway, so Kenny and Mike, you know, they've toked it up, and then they get the canoes, and they get these girls somehow. Kenny's got this miraculous mullet,
Lovely mullet.
which I hate.
Lovely
Hate
mullet.
mullets, but good
I
for him.
hate mullets too. I especially that kind of mullet. I prefer a Joe Dirt mullet over that kind of a mullet.
Really? And he's
The
like, "Oh,
heart
you."
wants what it wants.
So they're in the canoe, of course, and then
And
she
they
said
got a
something
girl.
last night that I somehow had missed before, and it's this, when it's one girl before she switches into another girl in the scene, but she's
Hmm.
got her hand in the water. She goes, "Well, the water does really feel warmer at night." I'm like, "No, it doesn't. You know." And then he's in there. You better watch out for those snakes and you know, and snapping turtles.
Snapping turtles. Because that's what asshole little teenage boys like to
You
do.
bastard, I hate you. And then she so much so that she transforms into a completely different girl.
I
So,
never noticed that till you brought it up.
well, it's hard to notice, and I didn't know until, if you watch it with the commentary, they kind of talk about it, and it's because the girl swims away, right? And
Hmm.
you don't really see. I mean, and we're not looking at her. And then brings up the other point right after that, and why he's so stupid. I mean, so
he still continues with the bit even though she's gone.
And he's under the canoe, and he's going, Leslie, you're under the canoe. She's not there.
Singing a little song.
Hey, Bobbery Bob.
Yeah,
hey,
and then
Bobbery.
this little Samara head just comes up out of the water. And we get the pronoun game of, oh, it's you, the person.
Yeah,
The rest of the boys will be interested to see you.
This one I know for sure is Angela.
Or very pissed off Cher.
Yeah, but this one definitely ain't Ricky, because Ricky, well, no, but I know this one's Angela. It seems like that. And then, of course, the boys, all the girls have run off, and they still are in their underwear, and they're talking about water snakes, and then Billy grabs his, which, again, a favorite part of mine.
I love a good water snake.
Lord have mercy.
And they just start throwing furniture because they think that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and then I could not remember this guy's name, the character, and I love him, and I think he's hot, too.
The guy who has to clean up the next day?
Yeah, is his name Jeff or something?
I don't know. He's only in this one scene, but he is giving...
No, he comes back. He comes back.
Oh, he does? But in this scene, he's just giving pure rage. He's having the Monday that I have 5 days a week.
He's got a case of the Mondays. And he's got the best... I think that's probably my second favorite line. Is these peckerheads suck, and then he's like, I'd like to see Mel get his fat ass out here and do that, and it's just funny, like we know what he's gonna see, and then he lifts over that canoe, and this is another, honestly, for the time too, I think it's pretty amazing, this dummy that they made of John Dunn, who was Kenny. I mean, it looks fairly like he would look if he had been in the water overnight.
And the little snake comes out.
They only do that
really
to
creepy.
get that snake. It is. It's very creepy. So especially.
And there's no secret that this kid is dead because we have presumably all the campers watching as the ambulance takes the body away.
I know. And then you see this guy. I guess his name's Jeff. Hopefully somebody will correct me because I don't think his name is ever mentioned. But he's being consoled, which wouldn't you? I mean, but that's the thing. You've got these kids, and these actual kids, like we've established, watching this body. And then Mel's just like, oh, okay, how can we wrap this up? And this is the first time we see the cop. This first time.
So it was an accident.
Yeah, he's trying to goad him into this. And this time the cop has a legitimate, authentic mustache. So that's good. We'll get to that near the end.
When we see him again, he might not.
Black electrical tap. Tap.
And in the scene, it's mostly Mel and the police guy, and you have Ronnie who is just looking like he's trying to understand what everybody's saying. Yeah, he just has this really pensive...
And then Ronnie has the best line there, because the cop's like, what were you about to say before he bit your head off? I'm just going to say, I remember that boy being a pretty damn good swimmer. I'm like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Forcibly drowned doesn't really matter, right? That doesn't really matter, but... Yeah,
but living here by the coast now, I can tell you, anyone can succumb to something in the water. And if he was bit by a snake, which apparently he was because he had a snake coming out of his mouth, that could easily subdue someone enough to... have something bad happen to him.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if he was a pretty damn good swimmer or not. I mean, he was pushed under and drowned that way. So
Ronnie's not Nancy Drew, but he's trying.
God love him, he's trying. And then I think the next scene we get to the volleyball game.
Yeah, the volleyball game.
And let's talk Judy, her humongous ponytail, which, like I said earlier,
little side pony.
A little side pony, my big pony. Yeah, it is a character in itself, just like the curling iron will be as well later on. But in her shirt, I love it spells Judy.
Just Judy.
And I think some of the letters are kind of they're not like in the
days before cricket.
It's where this movie's so quotable. I said I can be walking around the house or driving my car to work. And it's like you think of a song that gets stuck in your head. I'll think of lines from Sleepaway Camp. And they have nothing to do with the whatever situation I'm in. But this is another one where I will like randomly to myself go, how come Angela gets to talk to the boys all day and we have to play volleyball? It's very John Waters-esque. I mean, how quotable this is. much in the way like Female Trouble or Pink Flamingos is. You have these quotes that I'll say all the time, and especially my coworkers don't know, and I'm like, and some of them I'm like, please don't seek this out, this movie, if it's the John Waters movie.
You will think lesser of me.
They probably wouldn't. I think they know by now, but I don't want to be. It could be sexual harassment. Some of that in Pink Flamingos, especially the Papa Ooh Mau Mau scene with that very bendy man. And then so I think that's all I had else.
We just have Susie. Yeah, we just have Susie talking to Angela, saying, "Is there anything you want to do? Because you just kind of sit here all day."
Do you want to go sailing?
You want to go sailing? Yeah, no, bitch. Thanks, though.
Do you think I want to go sailing? No.
What about me and my whatchamacallit ass makes you think I want to go sailing?
Her badonkadonk. She talks about that in the commentary, I think. She's like, look, she said, I ate so many, look at my ass. And I'm like, so I'm like, yeah.
Look at my ass.
Are you looking at my ass? And then that was the only other note that I've already touched on about Phyllis's just impressive subtleties and nuances, because Paul's sitting there and she's already
the movie.
I thought we had to go to that anyway. And so she's all like cutesy wootsy, and then he leaves, and it's just like this. It just changes when Meg's there, and it's perfect for a child. I mean, she's a child actress to be able to do that. So we get that.
She didn't get to do more.
I know. I mean, because she really was talented. I mean, sincerely. Well, I think it kind of dissolves there, doesn't it? So they're at the movie in the rec hall. And
yes, and I think it dissolves with the same sound effect that, like the end of the national anthem, like TVs used to do when
it's something
the
like
station
that.
would go off. you
just
just
hear
get the last 3 bars,
something.
and then the applause lights come on. Everybody starts walking out of the rec room.
And then he's like walking her back to her, I was about to say dorm, but I guess it's the same as cabin or bunk.
Yeah, the cabin. They're holding hands. They're having a good time. It's a cute little date. He's dressed sharp.
But then he says, oh, come over here. I want to show you something. Which you're like, And it's the most awkward little kiss ever. And then
Judy
he has
is given a look.
Yeah. Oh, because Ricky's trying to get with her. Remember all the good times we had? I'm like, you're 10. She's like 25 here. Now stop, And Judy's like so jealous, yeah. But he does that little awkward kiss, and then it's like, dude, like his game was so, even for a child, like you don't just do that. But he has the audacity to ask, can I have another one? No. And then she does, So, and this is what I think starts some, shall we say, like traction that she has to Paul.
Set something off.
There's something that creates an even deeper confusion. So she's been forced to, well, we've already revealed the ending. She's
reconcile when men ain't shit.
Yeah. Well, I would not quite where I was going, but yeah. No, I mean she's had to grow up and live as a girl and have that forced upon her. But did Peter have attraction to men already? I don't think so, personally, and I think that it's the thing where she's had to live as a girl all her life, basically, and so she'll get into these situations. I think that's part of the awkwardness of it, too, and then maybe Peter...
psychosexual awakening.
Yeah, I think Peter realizes, oh, wait, I do like boys, and that also goes to, which we'll get into in a bit, the flashback of seeing his dad and Lenny in bed. I had to remember what we were calling him. So it's really, and you see that in the performance, it's like, I'm not mad, but it's just this like, okay, I don't know, So that happens, and then I think the next day...
Well, we have this little interaction with Paul and Judy, because Judy kind of goes behind and has this little conversation with Paul after things kind of go south with Angela.
Paul's doing his little thing, Burt Reynolds, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
And,
no, of course not.
And of course she doesn't want to go in the water. Think about the beginning of the film, which of course they don't know.
She has trauma. Like, she doesn't have to give you any excuses.
And then Meg just goes ballistic. And I guess I can get it. I would probably be upset if I was talking to someone and they just gave me no response at all either. But it's kind of funny how, but also I get like, ooh, just thinking with the cutaways of Angela with that, that stare is just so intense. But then, of course, she's like, Meg's in trouble, as she should be.
Yeah. Meg just starts shaking Angela for this interaction, and Ronnie has to break
Which
it up.
is crazy, because that is a bit of an overreaction. And then, excuse me, I think it goes into, they're back in the bunk, and then Judy's drying her hair. And she's like,
And we
"That's
get
not
that infamous line.
Yeah.
Because
starts-
naturally Angela's just staring at her.
Yeah.
And we have, to go off your theory, we kind of have her examining women. I think she's kind of comparing herself to other women.
Yeah.
And Judy is just had enough of this girl just staring at her the whole time.
Yeah, which is understandably off-putting, but it's really interesting because now we get more little clues, which we may not completely realize upon first viewing, from Judy.
Like how she doesn't shower with the rest of the girls.
I know, and that's the one that drives me crazy. It's like, how come you don't take showers? Are you queer or something? Well, if she was queer, wouldn't she want to? I mean, so that doesn't make sense. But it's the whole thing, and she goes into her not reaching puberty, and I love the way she says, because she has no hair down below. What do you care, And then the perfect line, and, Susie steps in, and it's just, she's a real carpenter's dream, flat as a board, needs a screw. And then, that's enough, fuck you, or fuck off.
Slap.
And then, yeah. And then Susie, she's like, I'm gonna go see my cousin. Let's go. And then Susie's just standing
Go
there.
down to my cousin. She's like, okay, just go.
And then my favorite outfit that we go to that Bill is wearing, it's just those blue short Adidas shorts. And Billy's running back to his bunk.
Because he's got to take, what is it?
I gotta take a wicked dump. I gotta take a wicked
wicked
dump. I'll see you guys later. So this one is interesting.
Again, it's a case of all the older men in this movie being himbos.
Oh yeah.
The whole murder scene is just something. It's just something. The men in this movie are so dumb but so beautiful. It's actually a nice little flip on the tradition.
I think that was another thing. So Billy's taking a dump, a wicked dump, and I think I forgot to mention
You
that.
gotta clean out.
Shit. That's true. Yeah. But anyway, so we did kind of, I mean, of course, because we've been talking already a long time about it, but I forgot to mention the scene where, again, they're picking on Mozart, but again, to me, is not that bad. I mean, it's the shaving cream.
It's just picking on Mozart. They take away the pocket knife.
Which is a big pocket knife. Gino hides it so well underneath that blanket, and then we have another teenage boy dog pile. So anyway, so there's the knife. Well, we did mention that a bit. So we see the slit in the window screen above Bill, and
Which he doesn't hear, apparently.
No, he does, because he said, "Who's that? Jesus, can't even take a shit in peace." He says that, and so here's the thing. Okay, so this little hive comes, I guess, well, they said they were bees that they use, so we know they're bees. We don't see them, of course, and I guess we are to assume that Billy is quite allergic to bees. Otherwise, it's hard for me to kind of follow the logic of this next one, because he's, freaking out, of course, and they put that broom handle through the stall doors.
Between the stall doors, yeah.
Why, and I know he's freaking out, but why does he not go underneath the stall doors? I don't get it.
Underneath stall. I mean, he eventually breaks out of the stall. But
But-
it's too late. But the gore effects in this make it seem like these are some crazy bees, because he has bees all over his face. He has bees coming out of little wounds. If you have a tryptophobia, this scene's probably really going to affect you.
Which, that's what I wrote down. I'm like, this one's really hard for me to buy into, because it's amazing visual effects once again. But I put, is it not a bit much to believe that these insects would have that sort of a fatal effect on him, even if he is allergic? So, but I don't know a lot about bees, so maybe they could. And I'm just, at any rate, it's upsetting to me that even though he's a total asshole, he was my asshole. And just have to say goodbye to my love in this scene, because he's gone.
Exactly, especially when he was cleaning himself out.
I know. I was ready. Anyway.
Our next scene for
Mel.
any aspiring actors out here, and you're looking for just the right monologue. for your self-tape audition.
That's perfect. I never thought about that. Yeah.
We have a lovely little 1 minute about all the accidents going on around.
Finished.
Finished. If you're up for a role that requires you to be a slightly creepy, slightly pedophilic child care worker.
Yeah.
And he's just basically going over how finished he is and how many campers are left. Apparently there's just 25 kids, even though those numbers do not add up at all.
They don't.
And we get to see...
Yeah.
I think... Because I clocked it, I think Ronnie is in his first pair of actual pants, and they're gray sweatpants.
Yeah. So even then...
It's nice.
This guy just wants us to look at his dick.
Now, keep in mind, Ronnie's the one that came up with this number, so it should probably be double-checked. Someone needs to double-check Ronnie's numbers, because there are more than 25 kids in this camp left.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we don't see them all, but
there was at least 40 that I can count of that left the movie the night before.
Yeah, and then only 2 have died so far of the kids. So
unless okay, I just thought about this. Unless this is also a day camp situation, so we have kids that pay extra to do sleepaway, and then we just have a day camp situation where we have kids that just stay all day, and then their parents pick them up later.
I guess that could be. Of course, that's never addressed, and I don't know if the creators even thought that far into it. I think maybe they lost some kids along the way, not by dying, but they, from the actors. So.
Ineffectual child leadership.
That's what it is. So, yeah, I mean, Mel is. This is for sure, or at least for me, when I really started to hate him. Just when he's like, "How many are left?" I'm like.
All the kids are present and accounted for. No, they're not. There was like 100 now. You're saying they're 25? Well, all the hot ones are.
All the hot ones are, yeah.
All the hot ones are. We kept our eyes on them.
I know, yeah. And then we see this little POV. This cuts to somebody creeping up on Angela, which we know it's Paul, But I love the way her little New Jersey, New York accent. I thought you were the killer.
But here's what's funny. Here's what's funny. Up until this point, they've all been presented as accidents. So there isn't necessarily a killer. You can argue that all this has been really bad accidents. The kid drowned. The cook, he burned himself when the pot overflowed on him. And then Billy had an allergic reaction to bees. There is no killer. No one's been stabbed yet.
Yeah, but I mean, well, from what we the viewers have seen. Oh, and that's another thing with Billy's death. I'm kind of drawn to believe that one was Ricky as well, because it's the knife. If you really look, it's Mozart's knife, and that's where it was.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Angela could have known about it, but that's just supports my theory more there. But like I said, I love the way she says that. There's also a way that's just so precious. I think Paul's trying to get her as they're about to go run on the beach there, and it's kind of a lispy way. She goes, "Where are we going?" And I just love the way she says that. It's so precious. So they're on the beach. They're running around. You see Angela for the first time. She actually gets they kiss, and her leg kind of gets up on his. And then they fall over, and then they've got kind of an impassioned kiss for teenagers. But
then she immediately has this weird thing happen to her where she just disassociates and has this memory occur of her father and Lenny in bed.
Yeah, because he starts to unbutton, and she says, "No, please don't," and he does not respect her boundaries. And so she goes into this catatonic state. But of course she knows if he gets too far, we're going to discover some stuff. At the first time viewing, you don't really get that. And, of course, like you said, so she goes to this catatonic state almost. And then we really know, oh, her dad was gay. Okay. And then you get the thing.
Yes, because he's caressing another man in bed.
I would say that's a pretty good indicator, yeah.
Yeah, but that's literally all we see is a good solid minute and a half of them just caressing each other in bed.
But think about how big of a deal that would have been, too, in 1983. I mean,
just above the shoulders caressing.
It's enough. It's enough. It gets us there. It was a step towards, a step forward in the right direction. But then you get that weird one like you mentioned earlier, it's Peter and Angela's on the bed, and the first time you watch it, you're like, "What the hell is this?" Where they're just pointing, and it just keeps dissolving. You get it later.
Kind of.
Peter.
Kind of.
I mean, I think it is. It's Peter trying to take on this role that's forced upon him, and then of course Angela runs away because also Paul's about to get a little too. He's about to discover a little too
Couple
much.
inches too much.
Yeah.
So
An
it
angry inch, yeah.
It immediately dissolves from there to capture the flag. This movie, again, it's 30% actual slasher, and then the rest of it is just camp shenanigans. We've had baseball, capture the flag, skinny dipping, the movie, the social. It's just very well interspersed and kind of makes it hold up more as a camp film than an actual slasher, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Yeah, it really does.
But the gore effects are still really nice.
Oh, they're really, and funnily enough, it is the gore is actually rather impressive throughout this whole movie.
My thing is they do the capture the flag game because there's not enough kids to play. But every time they show kids, I can't pick a child that I've already seen.
I know
These are all new kids.
They really are. I mean, if you're able to kind of like focus on the ones that have been there before. So, and then I kind of tune out at the background, even though they're just, it's been so long since I've played Capture the Flag, but I know we didn't just move in little circles, you know. I remember we branched out a bit more.
Yeah, well, we had to be able to have the main characters have their conversation while still knowing that they're playing Capture the Flag.
And okay, I think that's the thing. And then they also they didn't have as many child actors at that point, so
we gotta
maybe
pay them all for a day, make sure we get them all in the shot.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. So there you go.
So yeah, we have Angela having a little interaction with Paul about the night before, how awkward it was, and apologizing. And then Judy's ass just swoops in, being a bitch, taunting him.
And then, of course, because he's a teenage boy.
And in searching for the capture the flag, Angela sees Paul and Judy kissing. Mm-hmm. And that, rightfully so, pisses her off. And Judy's just tickled pink at herself for being just the super bitch she is.
I know. And it's just, Ricky, yeah, you're a real scumbag. You know that, Judy? Fuck you, Ricky. And then he just, boom, like that, the middle finger.
I really want them to make a musical of Sleepaway Camp. We have so many camp musicals out there.
I have been talking about this. I don't know how that would be handled, the end of it, how that would be perceived, but I think it would work.
Mostly after the kissing scene with Paul and Judy, and Ricky basically calls her a bitch again. We kind of have this moment where Judy's character just has a look. That would be the part where we get the understanding the antagonist song.
Oh yeah,
the ballad.
She has an interesting look on her face, like, wait, am I maybe being too much of a bitch? Yeah.
The according to Chris of this universe for fans of Carrie the musical.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I think it'd be a great campy musical, and it's still one setting. It would be pretty easy to pull off, and these days we can pull off great effects, you know, through.
But the thing is, the acting is supposed to be so shitty, you wouldn't lose anything doing it in a regional production.
Oh, it'd be great. I think it'd be great. It's just making sure that people. I think the ending might be problematic for people these days. It would just depend on how that was handled. But I mean, we're still doing Hedwig in the Angry Inch, and that's kind of the same thing. Where that's not somebody who really was trans, that was forced upon them. So as long as that's made clear, I don't know, but I'm ready to help anybody write the script and the songs. I mean, I've had some ideas about it too. Just like I still wanted to make a musical of John Waters' Female Trouble. I think that'd be a great one.
There you go. I don't have a script, but I have notes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we've got the next scene,
which is basically at the water, and Paul is apologizing for what she saw, but
very poorly
Angela's
apologizing.
really not having it and just enjoying staring at space.
What does he say? He's like, she just wouldn't leave me alone. No, little dickhead.
That's not an excuse.
And then Judy comes up, and then she said, even though he told me what a prude you are, that is the word used. And I'm like, oh, you bitch. Okay. And then we get Meg. Well, so Ricky's there too. Okay. And I love the way it's the way Jonathan Tiersten says it to Mel. You know, hi Mal. He's like, hi Mal.
And while they're having this conversation, you can clearly see that Meg has picked up Angela, and Judy is kind of being an accomplice, taunting her. She has her over her shoulder, and they're going to dump her in the water.
And it's just so, I mean, it is really heartbreaking because we know why she doesn't want to go in the water. And if she doesn't want to go in the water, leave her alone. I mean, it's just the ultimate bully moment for these. And just like, I want to call him Jeff, like I said, what he says when he helps her out. He's like, you're a real peckerhead, Med. You know, I love peckerhead. I want to bring that back. I want
But
people.
Peckerhead's such a good term.
It is.
But Mel is kind of thinking Ricky's the killer.
Yeah, and how
the one causing all these issues, and his information is tangible at best. He just knows that Ricky has an attitude and might be the killer.
But that's my thing is, and I wrote that down, is like, how does Mel get to the point where he's like so sure it's Ricky? Mm-hmm. And I don't think Mel has enough. I think we, as a viewer, I have enough evidence to think that Ricky's in on it. But knowing that it's mostly Angela, but Mel, I couldn't understand what sort of evidence or conclusions he could have come to that would make him think that. And maybe I need to watch it again and pay even more attention, but I think it's just...
There's not much.
So it's not me missing anything. Okay.
No. It's just very poor tangible. It mostly starts whenever he's cursing at the rooftop at the boys, Ricky.
Yeah, I guess so.
And Mel sees that and says, "Oh, he has a temper. He has an attitude." It's basically the whole
kind of
point
funny.
of the scene.
Yeah, so that's what's kind of funny about it. So I guess that's what it is. And then it gets really awkward because Ricky wants to go and save his cousin Angela because he knows why she doesn't want to go in the water. Mm-hmm. And then Mel, this grown man, is pulling this child back, and then he finally breaks away because Ronnie also steps in, and we've got another intense moment that before it fades to black that really makes me think again that Ricky's in on it. Well, I love it's like the little kids who we'll talk about that are throwing sand at her, which I do not think was bad enough for what happens to them. But it's like Ricky's like, "You little fuckers." He calls them that. That's funny to me. And then he's like, "We'll get them back," and that intense stare. And because I think that's what it goes into. We have the fade to black. It fades in, and then Ronnie's assigning that evening what the counselors will be doing.
And Meg is off.
Yeah.
And this is where we get another crazy element of the story where Meg is trying to have dinner with Mel.
At 9 or 9:30 at night, which... And then I'm like... What are you thinking about, girl? I mean, how obsessed with power, but what kind of power?
But you can see Meg, like, the look on her face, she is just horny for this man.
And it's so, no disrespect to the actor, I mean, God rest his soul, because I know he did pass away shortly after this, but, like, ew. Like,
Water
what
and
is she...
oil.
But it's like... You think about the whole thing about wanting to sleep with somebody that's in power to kind of advance. I could get that if this was like some sort of corporation or something, but it's a summer camp. He has no power, really.
It's out of commission 9 months out of the year.
He can't even keep these kids alive. So
well, not the ugly ones.
No, and so it's just like, she literally does just want to fuck him. And why? It's so disgusting. And she goes in there even, and I feel like Judy would have known about it eventually, because she's like, I got a date tonight. It's a secret. I'm like, ew. Like, why are you doing this?
Don't act like you're doing something.
Because it's so... It's just yucky to me, and I mean no. I mean, if you're into what you're into, but it's just disgusting to me. And then of course, Meg's in the shower, and her little humming song, which is so, and it's so stupid that it gets stuck in my head. And this is a really surprising one because it really still does come out of nowhere. It kind of takes you by surprise.
It's very much more the slasher. It brings the slasher into this, because before you could argue that they were all accidents, but this is the first one that you undoubtedly would call a murder.
And I think this is the most brutal one. I mean, to go through that, which we all know how thin aluminum these like camp showers would be, But to go through that, through somebody's back and go all the way down the spine?
Yes,
I
while she's
mean,
in the shower, the killer just stabs through the paneling and just drags it down the spine.
with the blood.
Killing
and
Meg, which was, again, long overdue.
it was long overdue, but that's quite brutal. And then Ricky's hands, at least, are, washing off Mozart's knife, and not very well. So Mozart's knife is another character, because it's been through a lot. It's been used and abused.
Now we gotta talk about the scariest aspect in this for me.
Okay.
Which is one thing. I hate children. I'm sorry. I've tried to like them, but I don't like children. You have people out there like Artie who do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But I despise children. If I see a child or I'm at an event where there is presumably children, I'm not having a good time. And this
It
next
depends
scene,
for me, yeah.
this next scene where we have, is it Ronnie, I guess, who is in charge
Eddie.
of...
Yeah,
Eddie. Eddie has
I
all
had to
these
write down
kids
his name,
that he's
yeah.
taking on an overnight camping trip, which, stupid. You're already at a camp. You're camping. Why are you taking a bunch of... The oldest one looks like they're maybe 10.
Yeah, and you know what? That is a good point, and I have wondered that too. I'm like, they're already at camp, or is it just that they're sleeping outside under the stars? And it's cold, apparently, because that one, Eddie, I'm cold. I want to go back. And he's playing with a hatchet, and that's just
You're
like...
real pains in my asses.
Which, again, it's New York, so... But that's the thing. He just leaves these children out unattended.
Why doesn't he just let them go in the water? It's warmer at night.
Apparently, yeah.
Get in the water.
But
It's warmer at night.
this is the one thing, though. I'm unlike you. I do not hate children. It does depend if they, it depends on if. Anyway, but this one, and even the director talked about this. I mean, if he could go back, he wishes he hadn't done this. The murder of those kids that are left behind in the sleeping bags, that is a bit much to me.
Yeah, I'm still very much in the camp of fuck them kids.
I know you are. But I'm sure most of the listeners will agree with me on this one. It's just, and luckily, I mean, obviously we don't see it, of course, until Eddie comes back and realizes, oh shit, this is what I get for leaving them, But it's, I just think
annoying kids.
It's too gratuitous. I think it's too much. I don't think we even needed that scene of them camping. I mean, the movie's short enough already, but that was the only...
Yeah, we just had to pad the runtime.
I guess so. So that was the only reason for it, because there would be no other reason for them to be camping. He leaves the kids, and they're fine. But I just don't... I don't think they should have been killed off. I think... What did they do? They threw sand at her. That's it. It's... And Ricky called them little fuckers. I think that was enough. So, but it is, yeah, I know the director doesn't like that he did that now. It's not as bad. I mean,
I think it was more of a Carrie moment. There were definitely people who weren't complicit in Carrie that got killed at the prom. But in her kind of fugue state she was in at the moment, everybody got a lick in.
Oh, absolutely, because there was no escaping that one in Carrie. And I think it's easier, too, because it's easier to watch adults or, like, close to adults, like these high school kids go through that. And, yeah, I just don't... That's the one thing I really don't like about this film is those kids in the sleeping bags getting murdered. It's just out of place. I don't think it should have been there. But that's the only thing I hate about it. So if that's the only thing, then, I guess they're doing okay. But we go from that... to Judy and Mike, I think that's his name, and they're in her bunk, and she's skipping out on the social, I think.
Oh,
and
no, we have the scene before that where Angela and Paul are meeting outside of the social, or the rec room.
Oh, yeah, meet me at the waterfront after the social.
Meet me at the waterfront after the social.
Yeah, I have that line down. And so that happens, and then we do that. And then we have the kids. And then we go to Judy. Okay. Yes. I had to actually look at But it's like, I just love that. It's like, do you have to kiss so wet? And, well, that's what happens when you're making out. But I love when he leaves and she's got that pillow and she's that look on her face. I'm like, she is horny and pissed. Which, my constant state of existence, I think, too. So
pissed and horny.
And so Mel goes, this happens first. Mel goes over to the next bunk or whatever, and where the Loverboy poster's up. And this is another one I have an issue with. Okay, so how does Meg's body just happen to be perfectly placed where it's not only standing up on its own, but the second that he walks past that shower curtain, it just falls down? How does that work? Also, because she was stabbed from the side.
Dramatic effect.
But it's hard for me to buy into on that one. Because you can see the actress and then, but no, I guess what really detracts where I really have to suspend my belief is Mel in his
reaction to
performance.
Oh, no. Yes. Oh no.
Oh,
not Meg.
not you, Meg.
Oh, Meg.
I had him.
Oh God, jeez.
Now that's a John Waters, for sure overreaction. And it's so funny because he's got these Italian hand motions, and a lot of it I cannot understand what he's saying. He's like, I had him, I let him go. I promise, Meg, he'll never get away from me again. And it's just, but
again, if you need a monologue for an aspiring actor, just
this
watch
is the
this
one.
movie. This is the one.
And this one goes on and on with him, and it's so horrible yet so wonderful at the same time. He's very impassioned that his little, very probably underage fuck buddy has been murdered, but Mel, God love him. I mean, I hate him, but you can't help but love him too. I mean, it's kind of interesting. So I think after that
we go to the hair
back to
curler.
Judy.
Back to Judy, who's curling her hair. I guess she's doing the little Jewish ringlets.
Who knows what she's doing? I don't know what she's doing because her hair's pretty straight throughout, I thought. So, and this is, I wrote down here, the only problem with this wonderful super HD restoration we have happens in this scene. It's a very quick shot that I luckily didn't really notice the first time I watched it. And now when the killer is standing in the door, and in this HD restoration, they brightened it too much, the shot, and you can see it's Ricky with a really bad wig.
With a really bad wig.
So, because this one I think is Angela doing it.
It's supposed to be Angela, but...
Well, it would be because Ricky's at the rec hall, right? Because he talks to the other counselor who lets him in to get some, he said dinner was really shitty, so he's going to go in and get a bunch of candy bars, which is, well, I'd do the same thing probably too. But, so this one is for sure Angela. But it's weird because then you see, and a lot of people will look at this and still not, like a lot of the YouTube reactions, it seems like they're not sure if that curling iron is really going into her vagina, which for me there was no question that it was.
No, it's going right up into her meow meow.
And then the hands, which I love. I kind of like that we just see the hands in the shadows, and then she's of course being suffocated with that pillow. But one wonders, is that enough to kill her? I wouldn't know.
If she has the hand over the pillow, she was suffocated, but she suffocated very painfully.
So that's the thing, because there's also included on this Blu-ray, and you just take it for what it's worth. It's a fan-made film that they got Karen Fields to come back. She comes back as Judy.
Love it.
And she explains in this fan-made film, she ends up torturing this asshole of a guy. Because she's now working... I need to watch it again. It's perfect now that I'm talking about it. So she's working for, child welfare. Mm-hmm. And so she's going after these abusive... Because she can never have children now. Because somebody fried her vag. I'm sorry to the women listening to this. I'm sorry. But it's...
it's not our area of expertise.
I don't know. I will never... I've never seen one up close. I don't know, so...
I've never seen one in the wild.
Yeah, that's just not what we went for.
I saw a picture of one in National Geographic once.
Yeah.
Scared the hell out of me.
The only one I've seen up close is that shot in Pink Flamingos, which that was enough to make me even gayer. So, but yeah, I guess that's what I have wondered. I was like, would that have killed her? But I guess it would. It could, but then I think there was maybe that fan theory thought that maybe it didn't. Maybe she was passed out because she's just kind of dumped behind the bed. I love that boom, the thump with her legs, and maybe she did come back. and she used her disability for good, I guess.
Perhaps.
So yeah, and
Basically,
yeah.
basically what's going on now is,
the finale.
yeah, Andrea has this. She's getting her steps in on the Fitbit because presumably she killed Judy. She
Oh, Angela.
Yeah, Angela.
I was like, who's Andrea? I was like, a new character I didn't know about.
Sorry, Angela.
The Angela, yeah.
Yeah, Angela got her steps in. She killed Judy. She set up Meg to fall down at just the right time. And also
Somehow.
we discover that the children in the overnight camping site are dead. And
It is
Mel
what it
is
is.
on a rampage.
Oh yeah, the way he so Ricky gets his candy bars, and it's so. There's something about it's so silly to me. You see his hand come out, and it's just so like the way he grabs him by the mouth, and it's not. And then he's like Donkey Kong on top of him. He's beating the shit out of him.
That hand must have smelled terrible and tasted terrible.
Yeah, and especially and then Jonathan Tierson just like, "Oh, get off me, you crazy fuck!" I mean, it was just so. He's like, liar, liar, liar. I got him, Meg. And then there's that oh shit moment. He's like, oh, I killed a kid, or he thinks he killed a kid. And
I think everyone in the movie knows what's happening by now. But at just the ta-da nick of time, right after everyone else gets it, 5 minutes after everyone else has gotten the joke, Ronnie starts piecing things together. And
there's a killer on the loose. And he says it almost so casually. I mean, it's his version of being concerned, but it's almost so like, no, there's a killer on the loose. That's what's wrong, you know. So, but Mel does that, and one of the more definitely more impressive visual effects in the film, and this one we know obviously is Angela because Ricky's unconscious. And though if you notice the way the arrow is kind of like fiddled with, it looks a little more female. But the way that happens is so simplistic, but so, and the fact that you don't really see blood, the arrow through the neck, and it just pops, and it's done so well. And then I don't know about you, but I'm so happy to see him die, though.
Yes.
Finally, after beating up my little Ricky, who's my little buddy, I felt like. So, yeah, you said, Ronnie's piecing it together. We get the cop back, who looks a
And
little different.
he has a really bad, almost Groucho Marx mustache.
It's like, to me, it looks like black electrical tape. It looks horrendous.
It's so distracting.
It's so distracting, and yet the director decides to give us a close-up. It's a little bit later when they find Meg, and then he goes in there, and he comes out, and it's like we get this very tight, which we get a close-up on him when they find Ricky, and then luckily we see Ricky's alive. Even though I think that kind of fucked up Jonathan's nostrils, no joke, forever. They put the blood capsules in there. If you follow, I follow him on Facebook and everything, and I do see that now. His nostrils are bigger now than in the beginning of this movie, and that's I think the director did something to it. But yeah, we see a little bit of it there, but he's got such a big such a close up, and I'm like, why did you do that? If you couldn't have an actual mustache back on him.
This has been days apart, too, so even if you don't think people will recognize him as the sheriff, he can still just be another police person.
That's the thing.
And it'll be less distracting.
I think
it's really integral to his character to have a mustache.
I thought it would have been way less distracting. That's one thing. Another thing I would have changed from the kids being killed to this would be to just, he shaved his mustache because they didn't know they need him back, and he had another role. So as an actor, that's what he had to do. I would have left it without a mustache. It's been a few days for sure. Who's to say he didn't decide to shave it? It would be way less distracting.
That's what people do, yeah.
Yeah, it would be way less distracting than this, like you said, Groucho Marx black electrical tape mess that we have going on. So luckily, that's another issue I have with it, but I try to get past it because now we are getting into the pièce de résistance of the Ronnie and Susie. And, of course, his flashlight goes out at the perfect time, as they always do. And we see Angela from the back Well, because they've already had that where she's, says she wants to go swimming, and he says, "What about our clothes? Take them off." And as a, stupid, horny teenage boy, okay, and he's just
Paul's
going
all for
crazy.
it, yeah.
Which, of course, you would. And so we see them from the back. And this first shot that's kind of panning in slowly. Even in HD, it's hard to see, but you see that Paul's fully naked too. So I guess Chris Collette's parents were just fine with anything. So you got to look, but you see his ass again. And we assume his head is still attached to his body. And if you look really closely where there's the pier or whatever you want to call it, you can kind of see a young college man who will soon come into play taking off his shirt and getting ready. So, yeah, they're coming up. Angela's humming. Ronnie's calling for Angela. And then Susie, "Angela, are you all right?" And we're getting freaked out already. Her hair's gone crazy. I mean, so already that humidity's hit like it hasn't hit at all this movie. Then we have another flashback. And I think most of us at first are like, oh, God, Aunt Martha again, which even though we love her.
Love her.
But, and of course they literally had to reconstruct the house. But there is something about that I love about it with having mostly black as the background. It's like a dream almost. We kind of wonder what's going on, and this one totally fooled me. I'm gonna be honest. I think a lot of people nowadays, they'll say when they saw it for the first time, like, "Oh, I saw that coming. I knew she," I did not. I thought Angela was the killer, but I didn't know what was about to happen.
Yes, where we have this conversation, we see someone with their head bandaged up from the accident. Aunt Martha's talking to them.
And I assumed it was Angela.
Yes. And they're talking about
they're
how
like,
she already has 2 boys, but that just wouldn't do.
Oh, no, that would not do at all.
And how she's always wanted a little girl. And so she renames Peter Angela.
And then that's when we get that is she's talking about how I believe it means angel. Well, I'm almost sure. And then of course you'll like that name, won't you, Peter? And then we get the look, and then this is to me is just the best part, and this is why I now come back to this movie again and again. Is this finale?
I am wet for this scene.
I am so wet for this scene because it's that stingy music, and then all of a sudden you hear, ah, and then Chris Collette's head, but Paul's head
drops on the floor.
And with that smile, and it's just, and you don't see it that long, but you're like, oh my Jesus. And it's perfect that they did it this way. And for other reasons, I'm so happy that they decided not to have Felissa actually naked with a strap on. But it works so well to have the wide shots being this very grotesque mask that that they had to put this poor kid behind who was apparently crying all through it. It's like and he looks fine. There's nothing wrong with his anatomy. He looks fine to me, and it's
just immortalized forever, and people are going to have a podcast in the future where they talk about it.
They talk about his dick. Yeah. Most people would be grateful. You got to be remembered for something. But it's so, the first time you see it, and if you're like me and lucky enough to be fooled into this false of security and not see it coming at all, one thing I have to say about it, I remembered seeing things about this movie, and I remember that shot that we end on with Angela, where it's actually Felissa, with the blood and everything.
Mouth open, making this terrible noise.
Yeah. So you'll see stills or things, and you have no idea what takes place, and you kind of piece things together in your mind. So I knew about that shot. I knew that was kind of an ending shot. To me, it looked like she had been murdered, almost like what I've seen of, another movie I just don't think I can ever watch is Cannibal Holocaust, but it looked like somebody that had been
couldn't do it.
I can't do it. And it looked like somebody that had been impaled, because you also see the blood there, right? In my mind, I had kind of pieced it, so I kept waiting for her to somehow get murdered. And then that happened, and then I recognized it, because also that was very haunting to me to just have seen that online and other vehicles or ways that we have seen that. But it is so, the first time you see it is just like, oh my God. And I sat there mouth open. And that's another reason I got so angry, which maybe she's a little more jaded than I am. Again, my best friend Catherine, I showed her this movie, and she's like, well, this is kind of stupid. I said, it's stupid, but we love bad movies. I waited and I looked at her reaction, and she was just like, huh. And I mean, it's like, that's not what you want when you show this to somebody for the first time. You want them to flip out like I did,
Yes,
you know?
yes, exactly. And Ronnie, very tardy at the party, misses over the knife, misses over the blood, misses over the body, saying, "Oh my God,
My God, she's a boy.
she's a boy."
You know, and it's just...
Give
and
him a
it's-
couple minutes, I'm sure he'll get that there's a dead body as well,
Wait.
and she's the killer.
Paul, his head, not attached? Yeah, I mean, so he'll get it there. Poor Ronnie.
She was here when Paul died. Yeah, Ronnie. That's exactly
He'll
what happened.
get it. He'll get it. Give him some... But Susie, poor Susie, can you imagine how traumatized she is from seeing this? And then that's the way the film ends. And then there was almost like a bit of an anger from me, because almost like when the first time
We
years...
need to unpack that.
Yeah, like, that's how it ends. It's almost how angry I was when I was 13 and the first time I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I was like,
Yes.
that's not the ending. That's the ending, and it kind of gets you. But now when I watch it, I mean, I just wait for that moment, and it is so haunting, yet I hesitate to say almost beautiful, but it's
Chef's
just, it's just perfect, and it is so creepy. And it really is, it's scary. It really is. And the fact that this 13, 12-year-old girl, however old she was, could go there without, you know, it's just, it's iconic. It literally is iconic. And what a way to end a film. Hey, try getting away with that today. So, yeah.
Yes, for multiple reasons. Mostly, even though we know this is an of-age person naked, we are to believe that it is...
Mm-hmm.
It is Angela's character, a 13, 14-year-old naked.
Which there's still some question. I've heard it mentioned before through other... I don't know how true it is, but actually that the guy whose body that is, that he may not have been quite college age. So also that might be another reason he's kept quiet. I mean, we finally found out who the singing anus was in Pink Flamingos after he died recently. But
Well,
will we ever find out this one?
Here's a case for that. Everything I hear about this gentleman says that he's college age, which makes me think, okay, we know he's in college, but how old is that? They never talk about how old he is specifically. They just say college age.
You would
which
think
I
it
can
has to be
see-
18. You know,
I can
yeah.
see a movie like this. He's maybe 17, on the verge of 18. And they
Maybe.
just skirted around that for legal reasons, kind of like they did in Friday the 13th Part 2. They had a girl who lied, and she wasn't 18. She was actually 16.
Gosh.
And
See,
they had
I've
to
only
do
seen the
a
first Friday
bunch
the
of
13th, yeah.
reshoots. They had to do
Oh,
a bunch
God.
of reshoots for it because she was naked. And they had that film, so Paramount still has that film somewhere of her doing a love scene at 16.
But they didn't know. She lied and said that. Then
She
you know,
lied,
that's
yeah. Yeah. But they got a body
Yeah.
double, redid the shot, everything was fine. So,
Yeah.
obviously this movie is a lot to unpack. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts of it as a whole?
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, that's the main thing you get from it. It's just a lot of fun. And you have a lot of fun with it because of the performances. Some are good, some are bad, some are so bad they're good. I mean, honestly. And then, so that's your first reaction. I think you have shock. And it, like you said, it's a lot to unpack. I think it is a lot deeper, and I mean this so seriously. I'm not being ironic or funny at all.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot deeper than a lot of people give it credit for, because the way that it ends, you might be angry that it ends that way the first time you watch it, but then you can't stop thinking about it. You can't stop putting pieces together like, oh,
It sticks with you.
yeah, and that's like, oh, that's why Aunt Martha had the physicals. That's why Angela didn't want to take showers with the other. You're like, oh my God. And then you want to go back and watch it again. Then you kind of come up with your own theories. And like, yeah, Ricky knew. Did you think Ricky knew about Angela? It's left for us to decide. It's also left for us to decide if he had a part in it. And I firmly believe that they both committed the murders. I think they were working together. He was so protective of her. So that's the thing. You also get into it. I did wonder... upon, like I said, it was only unfortunately, it was only just last year I finally watched it, but that ending, I did have a lot of thoughts. I wondered, how does the trans community feel about this these days? I had to look up some of that, and then seeing that it's not the fact that it's a child who this gender role is forced upon them. This is not something that they either chose or they realized, or that's kind of makes it safer, I guess. And like I said, that's kind of where Hedwig is the same
But
vein
it also
there.
feeds into a negative trope of horror where the sexually confused deviant is the monster.
It can.
As you have in movies like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the movie Psycho.
Yeah, and that's the problem where I think that the trans community would have an issue with, because it is presenting it that way. However,
This movie being so inherently queer as it is,
that's what it is, and it's the fact that this is a child who, as far as we know, did not want to be a little girl, wanted to be a little boy, as he was, and these murders are from being finally out of the house, being away from home. This is my take on it, and finally being able to enact this rage of not being. I mean, so I think Peter, Angela, is very confused, and I think another reason for that. But like you said, that is the issue that we get into, of the problematic issue of showing of queer people, and showing that. So even if it is Peter, like I see it, like coming to terms with his sexuality, and because I think he really likes Paul, and maybe that freaks him out at first, and it's just also because he's had to live as a girl, So there's that issue. Does that lead to, also, how does that lead to Paul's murder? Or is it just this total sense of betrayal that Angela had from the whole thing with Judy, that's why she killed him? But so that's the thing. Even now, it's a lot to unpack, and that's what's missing from the sequels of the of that are not really sequels. But I mean, because
mileage may vary with this movie, but depending on what you're looking for, clearly this movie didn't have a whole lot of thought into all of its choices.
Yeah.
Even in explaining a lot of the plot threads, things don't 100% add up. So where I can excuse this movie is I don't think anything in this movie was done maliciously.
Oh, absolutely not. No. And I do think it was ahead of its time, in the sense and of portraying their father as a gay man, and especially you have to think this is '83, and the types of audiences that would be coming to see a horror film. That in itself was very pro-queer to me, just kind of amazed to see that, because honestly there's no other reason, as far as the story goes, to portray them as homosexual, other than to say, like, hey, these people exist at that time, and like, it's okay, they had kids, they had and that's I guess to me why I didn't think of it as a problematic film, at least for me, because it had that aspect to it. And I think, obviously, like I said, he obviously made this for the gays, as far as Billy and the other of age men. Let me be very clear, of age men that we're looking at in Shorty Shorts. Male models,
Mel?
really.
No, Mel.
Ugh,
Just
Mel. Not male, but Mel. Ugh, Lord
Mel.
have mercy.
Some of us are here for Mel.
Again, who am I to judge? But you do you. I will go with Laurice, a.k.a. Billy, and have a grand old time. So, yeah. But,
Alright,
yeah.
So with this movie, we always do this thing at the end of the movie where we decide if we think the movie was deep, meaning we liked it and other people should watch it, or if we think the movie needs to be cut. Pretty much saying it wasn't that great, stuff needed to be changed about it, or people should just go elsewhere. So at the end of the day, where do you lie on the fence? Do you think this movie is deep, or should it be cut?
Well, this may shock you, knowing me, but no, I think it's incredibly deep. Yeah, I think it is incredibly deep.
I figured.
You knew that, inviting me to do this. Yeah, no, like I said, there's some things that could be problematic. I think if you go in with an open mind, and also, I mean, like I said, the things that I would change, I think, are so inconsequential and not worth it, that I obviously enjoy it. This is one of those movies that I can literally just put on anytime. And even if it's just in the background, and I never thought I'd have that reaction to this, but I think it's very deep, and also because of all the reasons I said, just previously, that it's got there's a lot more to unpack there than just on the surface, which you could kind of think upon first viewing. But if you delve deeper, there's a lot there.
First viewing, you can look at this as just a mindless, stupid slasher movie, but the fact that we're able to have a 2.5 to 3 hour conversation about this movie speaks for itself.
Hopefully you've edited
a lot more to unpack. But we have had a good conversation about it and the merits therein. I knew going into it, because I was hesitant at first to even put it on the list for deep cuts, because while not a lot of people know about it, it's kind of infamous for what it is. It's sort of The Room for horror movies. Yeah. But I figured...
There's worse ones, though,
The rabbit hole goes deeper. But I definitely wanted to talk about this movie, because there is a lot to talk about, and I didn't want the pressures of trying to bring anything new to the table and just have it be a one-on-one reaction to the things that we experienced watching it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that part of it. I was happy that you asked me to do this, because I really do. I just really love this movie, and I do think it is something that a lot of people would enjoy as well. I mean, if nothing else, it definitely holds your attention, and it's not that long. It's like 80 minutes long, right? I mean, it's so. Yeah,
it's a very watchable movie, especially when you take out the opening credits and the ending credits.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the opening credits, and you just hear the kids, the ghost voices. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that, but that was not even really...
oh, gosh, I hate that. It'd be different if it was good audio, but it's not. It's the same loud, jarring audio. The sound bars are just going off.
I know. It's a bit much, yeah. So...
All right. Well, do you have any before we leave today? Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Any projects? Any social media?
As of right now, I mean, I don't think I've got too much going on. Hopefully, we'll get some more acting projects going in the pipeline. I know it's just been a little difficult still. Things are kind of still picking up around here, at least as far as like live stage productions go since COVID. I would, yeah. But if people want to follow me, I definitely the best way to do that, I would say, is Instagram. You can find me on there, Tyler Henry Actor, all one word, of course. And I just love to have new followers. So that's the best way to see all my different obsessions and what I'm keeping up with. So yeah, the more the merrier.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being with us today. It was real pleasure. We hope to have you back again here soon. I'd also like to take this time to thank the guests for tuning in again and listening to us. It's great having you here as well. Make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on Twitter at Deep Horror Pod, or you can shoot us an email at deepcutsofhorror@gmail.com and let us know what movies we should take a look at next. I will also make sure to link those in the show notes. Next time, we're going to be taking a look at Dario Argento's Tenebrae, so make sure you listen in for that and join us as well. Until then, stay spooky.